Hey, Norma.
Oh, I got a short chair. All right. Well, good evening and welcome to the August 12th, 2014 City Council meeting. Welcome. We've got a good crowd here. Lots on the agenda. Before we get started, Bob Kellogg, would you please come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome again. We have quite a number of items on the agenda tonight. Why don't we start with Mr. Marwan Saloom, our Public Works Director, for a presentation regarding an American flag installation at 320th near 99, something that will change the look of our city for the future.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, member of the council. The presentation before you tonight is for the installation of American flag on South 320th in the middle of an island between 23rd and SR99. Actually, this is the wrong presentation. Sorry. Let me go to the next item here. They loaded the wrong one. The mayor has requested that the memorial flag be installed within the median island on South 320th Street between SR99 and 20th Avenue South, along with 1-inch flagpole installed on a bracket on a Cobra street light between 11th Avenue and 23rd Avenue. The purpose of the installation is to provide memorial to those who have served the city of Federal Way, the state, and our country, giving their life to protect our freedom. The flag on South 320th will be flown permanently and have lighting installed to illuminate during the hour of darkness. The flagpole bracket will be also installed on the streetlight pole, 40-foot Cobra streetlight. They are the aluminum light, not the decorative light, where the flag can be displayed on Memorial Day and any other national holiday. Approval will allow the payment for all of the costs associated with the purchase of the installation of the 60-foot flagpole and associated equipment and lighting system, as well as street light bracket, 1-inch pole and flag to be installed on the street light, and authorize the mayor to sign any contract associated with this work. This is a visual presentation or representation of how would the flag look from 11th Avenue South. First of all, my apology. This is the presentation that we gave to the LUTC, and I had a different presentation for the council, and somehow they loaded the wrong one for you, but that's fine. The estimated cost for the South 320th Street flagpole is a total of $35,000. And that would be for the cost of the flagpole, the installation, the lighting system, the bracket, and any landscaping modification that has to be done. This item was presented to the LUTC committee, and I had a couple exhibits. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to show it to you, but there are some questions were raised at the committee, and I will attempt to answer them without any illustration. Some of those questions pertaining to...
Marwan, can I just interrupt just for a moment, just to give some context? We're going to have Bob Kellogg at some point approach the podium and address the council, so sorry to interrupt your presentation, but the idea, and Mr. Kellogg can explain this in greater detail, the idea is to create a visual a visual impact, either right when you get off the freeway. Imagine if you get off the freeway, either people that are new to Federal Way or visiting Federal Way, or live here, or have lived here for 30, 40 years. You get off the freeway and you start heading westbound. Immediately, the area in front of the mall, if you will, is sort of dipped down. The elevation dips down, which means that you've got a view corridor as you're heading westbound, or frankly eastbound, which is what that picture that Marwan showed us. That's coming from the west to the east toward the freeway. The visual feature is actually, what we're looking for is actually the other way, which is going westbound away from the freeway, and as soon as you got to about where the Stuart Anderson Steakhouse is, you would immediately see a row on the light poles of American flag, and then culminating in the middle of the roadway, a huge American flag on a 60-foot pole. Now, when I first heard this, I was a little skeptical. Excuse me, I was a little skeptical, and I had some concerns that I had to sit down with Mr. Kellogg about. But frankly, he really won me over, and what it was that won me over was this idea of the view of our city, and the view that will forever be part of our city, which is this beautiful panorama of flag, and then the flag in the center. Now, we've got an island there. Marwan, do you have a picture of the island? You didn't bring your PowerPoint?
This is the wrong PowerPoint.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you could see right there, just essentially, there's an island that's about 20 feet wide, and it's about how many feet long would you say it is?
It's about 50 foot long.
Right. You could plant a 60-foot flagpole in that island that will be protected from any kind of cross traffic or not present a danger to traffic, and you could put a flag probably 12 feet by 18 feet. The point is, and the reason why this is as a presentation and why I asked for it to go before the Land Use and Transportation Committee and why it's here today, is when people get off this freeway, and whether they're visiting or a longtime resident of Federal Way, this will be kind of a wow moment for people as they drive by. And I really think that moving forward, what we're really attempting to do is not only change the image, but change the literal view of what our town looks like. We started that with Town Square Park. This is yet one other step in that direction. The idea that we've been bantying around is that we would rename the section of 320th between Pack Highway and 23rd, where the McDonald's and Red Robin is. We would rename that Veterans Memorial Boulevard. And that would be a permanent reminder and a memorial to the people that have given their life and for their country. And so, on the other hand as well, it would be just a beautiful, stunning panorama for people that are new or even old to the city of Federal Way. So, with that in mind, there were some questions that were raised in land use that were addressed, and a lot of them had to do with safety issues. And then I believe we are addressing those, and that's where Marwan is. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. I have two questions. One is more of a statement. In the Bank of America parking lot, which is right in that corner there,
Yes.
is a historical society flag. So it would be nice if that could actually draw more attention to that, because that's been there for some time. But will this affect having banners placed across 320th?
No.
Not at all?
No. That's why we're putting them on the light poles and not where the banners are right now.
Well, I'm talking about, a couple years ago we had talked about having a big welcome sign.
Oh, a banner across the freeway?
Right.
I mean, across
320th?
Yeah.
Would this impact that at all?
No.
At that time, what Councilmember Honda talking about, there was a discussion to have that bridge, sign bridge, right at that location. But the mayor have a different idea where that sign bridge or the banner might be located on 320th, and it won't be at that particular location.
Where would it be?
Are we talking, no, hold it. Are you talking about a pedestrian bridge?
Potentially the pedestrian bridge where it will have a banner installed on the pedestrian bridge itself.
Right. And Councilmember Maloney and I have been talking about that. The optimal site for a pedestrian bridge, we've actually had some architects come in and discuss this with us, but it's just in the pre-development stages, as they say, not really ready for prime time. But that would be more along the lines of just west of where the Panera Bread is, and cross the freeway there. You have to be, in my opinion, for a pedestrian bridge, and in talking with folks, you need to be east of where 20th is, because otherwise the pedestrian bridge doesn't really make as much sense. But anyway, that's in a pre-development stage. What you're talking about is a banner across 320th.
Well, we had talked about having a Welcome to Federal Way
Yes.
sign and something over 320th where then service clubs could hang their banners or whatever.
Right.
And, you know, I would like one day to see something like that, but I wouldn't want this to impede that happening.
Well, it's going to be a 60-foot tall pole, so I don't think there's any conceivable way that it would interfere with that. We were actually talking about that in the management team and working on this. It's a good question, but I don't think it would. Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you. Thanks, Marwan. I understand that you addressed my concerns from land use, which were primarily the size of the flag, and if in inclement weather, if there is maybe an onslaught of rain, coming down pretty torrentially, would that kind of create a sheet of water that might hit a car or something going by? That was my primary concern, and it sounds as if maybe the smaller flag might mitigate some of that. I would like to see us kind of look into it though a little bit, just to make sure that if over a roadway a flag of that size wouldn't cause some sort of hazard. That remains a concern, although I think the smaller flag's a good move.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Actually, Councilmember Moore, Dini, Councilmember Moore, Duclos, and then Councilmember Selsky.
A question for Marwan or anybody, and that's what was the decision on the 60-foot? Why 60-foot pole flag?
We have looked at two options. One is a 60-foot high and the other one 70-foot high. And normally the size of the flag go with the height of the pole. So if you go with a 70-foot flagpole, then the size of the flag would be 15 by 25, or 15 by 25. So the idea was the 60-foot flag fit perfectly because oversized flag speak to Councilmember Maloney issue is that you're going to have too large of a flag flying over the commuter on South 320th.
It would, and I think it has the potential to overwhelm the site.
I called today about that issue, and I talked to Flags of Flying on that issue, and they saw no problem with the 60-foot pole and what we're suggesting a 12 by 18-foot flag.
All right, and we're going to call you up in a minute, Bob. Thank you very much. Thank you.
If I can add, I do have experience in insurance, and I've studied things, and I think I can. I've also talked to Flags of Flying a bit, so if I can insert anything, I'd like to.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Councilmember Duclos?
Oh, I'm just saying, I don't really have a problem with this. I like the idea very much. I like it anything better than what we have right now coming off the I-5 onto 320th exit, and that sign that we did kind of clean up a little bit, but it's still kind of pathetic, welcoming people into Federal Way. So.
Well, I think that's next after this in regard to, I think we need to have a welcome to Federal Way sign.
Yeah, but
I think that's clearly what's necessary right at that location.
Yeah.
This, I think, will be a nice vista, but then I think we've got to move eastward toward the freeway and have a good welcome sign to Federal Way. That's going to include that we've been talking to the service clubs as well that need to have their recognition on there. Was that it? Councilmember Duclos?
yeah, that's fine.
Councilmember
As long
Seltzer.
as we do
Thank
something
you.
about that, that's fine.
Just so when we're at a situation where we have a flag at half mast, I guess it would, the upper part of the flag would be 30 feet high and the bottom part would be 30 minus whatever the height was, 15 feet?
Yes.
Would that present a line of sight issue?
This is one of the item I did some research after the LUTC committee meeting, and some of the research where I was able to gather is that when we get a direction from the mayor, governor, president to lower the flag to half mast, it does not have to be at the middle of the flagpole.
Okay.
But what it has to be, a minimum of the depth of the flag lowered down. So as an example, for this particular flag on a 60-foot pole, 12 by 18, you have to lower the flag by 12 feet.
Okay.
And by us lowering the flag 12 feet, at no point will have less of a clearance over the roadway between the flag and the roadway of 26 feet to about 36 feet. It depends where the flag is flying. So the issue of having the half staff on the flagpole or flying at half staff, it's been addressed. And also, when we get that request, one of the other options I believe Councilman Maloney highlighted, we could have it as a practice, if that's become a problem, to change the size of the flag. So instead of flying 12 by 18, we could fly 10 by 15. So that will somewhat reduce the size of the flag and will give us a little bit more clearance between the commuting public and the bottom of the flag.
Okay, and then one other question. So where the flagpole is going to be placed, what is the distance to the roadway from the center?
As Mayor Farrell have highlighted, the widest point within that island is 20 feet. So we're going to install the flag right in the middle of the island. So what you will have is you have a 10-foot clear area between the middle of the flag and the curb, the edge of the curb on the island. And that's normally what required as part what referred to as a clear zone area for that particular speed, to have about 10 feet where you won't have any fixed object right next to the travel lane.
So the flag itself might extend over the roadway. If it were completely blown out, it would fly a little bit over the roadway, but not much.
Not much.
Okay. Thank you, Marwan.
Actually, at this time, there we go.
All right, now we
your
are talking.
PowerPoint.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
All right, this is one view that I guess we already showed you. The other, let's see, let's go back a little bit here. I guess this is the visualization that the mayor was trying to show you, which is if you are at 23rd Avenue, this is the look that you're going to be able to see, and it gives you a very good illustration of the flag hanging on the street light, which is right there. And that's approximately the height. And I believe one of the committee member asked the question is how high would the flag, the small flag will be on the street light. And this is a good illustration where the flag is going to be. It's going to be the same height as the banners. And again, for Councilman Selsky, the illustration of flying half-mast, we were able to go back and show how much over the roadway, if you have the flag flying full mast and the other one flying half staff, where if I lower it by 12 feet from the top, that will give you a clearance of about 26 feet to the bottom of the flag.
But that's assuming that we went with the standard 12 by 18 flag as opposed to going to like even a 5 by 8 if there's a...
Yeah, I mean, again, since we have not been able to find any other installation in the middle of a roadway anywhere else that I'm aware of, it's going to be a trial and error basis. We're going to try it with the flag that we have, and if there's any challenges that we're going to encounter, it seems like there's option available to us, and those options will be to reduce the size of the flag. And at that time, you're going to be able to have the clearance, and it's going to be somewhat of a clearance that is going to be suitable and it meets all standards.
Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you. We're talking about a really important and lasting addition to our downtown, to our city. And so I think it is important to talk about the likely or the potential of a pedestrian bridge. And so do we have information as to what the likely height of such a potential pedestrian bridge might be?
Clearance on all bridges have to be about approximately 20 feet high. So you're able to have somebody going underneath them. And 320th is a truck route. So most likely the bottom of the bridge have to be about 20 foot high.
Okay, and so the maximum height of such a bridge would be significantly lower than where the flag would be, is what you're saying?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we, when Councilmember Maloney and I sat down with the architect and the person, actually kind of came about, I had a group of fifth graders in my office, and they had their parents along with them. And one of the parents just happened to be an architect and had actually designed the pedestrian bridge that connects the Federal Transit Center garage with actually the driving bay. And he's actually been an architect for a number of different things. I think they ballparked, Kelly, what did they, Councilmember Maloney, but was the ballpark around $7 million for a pedestrian bridge? And so we haven't really gone there yet. I haven't really brought that out yet because we've got all kinds of economic development ideas. But it could be something we do down the road. I think clearly we'd have to develop the northern side of our downtown more, and we'd have to get buy-in from the mall. Councilmember Maloney, do you have any?
Yeah, I was just going to expand a little bit on that in terms of there are so many different variables that there are no decisions that can be made yet because we have a lot of work to do first.
Yeah. But I wanted to let you know that pursuant to Councilmember Honda's question, there have been some discussions about that. But I think that kind of pedestrian bridge would probably be more closer. It doesn't really make sense if you have the pedestrian bridge all the way down there, especially considering where Town
Most
Square
likely,
Park is.
that's the location of that pedestrian bridge will be somewhere right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe I had
Councilmember-
suggested a pedestrian bridge too, because trying to get across 320th would be murder for anybody. And having been to Spokane on a number of occasions, they have a lot of those bridges and they're just really great and they keep you right in the commercial area and lead you right into some of the stores, actually.
That's right. The idea is really from Town Square Park that we've got there now, that you would be able to essentially walk south, cross over the pedestrian bridge, or vice versa, to the mall and to the Commons. And that kind of connectivity, that walkability connectivity is really what we're working toward in the future. But I think that is years down the road. Deputy Mayor, did you have another?
No.
Okay. Councilmember Moore?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking at this photograph, it looks like I'm seeing flags on the left side. Will there be flags looking on the right side as well, or is
Only
it
on
just
the
one?
left. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That's
No,
good.
both sides. I
Left
just don't
side's
think you
good.
can see them. Yeah.
So both sides?
Yeah, both sides.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And of course, because we're talking about a bridge, I might as well say 2 cents.
Yeah.
And that's always, moving in the direction of making sure that our downtown is a walkable downtown.
Absolutely.
Is a great thing. So that's the only thing I'll say about that.
Very good. Marwan, I think you had some, you want to go ahead and get to your other?
I mean, the only thing that if the council have any more question, this is going to be on the agenda and their business, council business. So if you
Yeah.
have any question now or then, I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you.
Yeah, I wanted to do the presentation and then let's think about it for a little while during the meeting and then we'll take care of the business toward the end. But I think that we can, on inclement weather, reduce the size of the flag and even take the flag down if we need to, if appropriate. Safety is the absolute #1 priority, and we're not going to sacrifice safety for a flag presentation. Before we move on, I would like, Marwan, thank you very much for your presentation. Mr. Kellogg, would you approach the podium, please? And I promised you an opportunity to talk about this. And I got to tell you, when I started the meeting with Bob Kellogg, I got to tell everybody this. I was a firm no, and I was trying to figure out a way to figure out how to get the flag over to the Town Square Park. And Mr. Kellogg convinced me that this was a great idea and would transform the look of our downtown. So, as I told him then, he moved the arrow. So, you're on, Mr. Kellogg.
Well, thank you. You have covered much of what I said a pre-letter. You've covered that pre-letter pretty much too. I'll say something about why I believe in the flag is important. It is common ground. It's common ground for all Americans, and we may fight again with each other politically or otherwise, or we don't like what's going on back in our government. But when it comes down to whether you're Republican, Democrat, or whatever you might be, you are an American, and you're proud of it. 15 years ago, I worked on the Parks Commission. My project was to put on the 60-foot flagpole there. And I did that and pushed for that because as a community, we had fought over the Celebration Park for years. And I thought at the end, the best celebration was to say that we Americans were proud of it and we're proud of our city. And that's why I did it. And I felt it would be common ground. When I went out to raise money, that was the easy part. Because even the people that were against the project put money into the project. So I guess that's what I'm trying to acquire in this city. I think it is important to our citizens to become emotionally tied to it. And at least I believe that. And I think this is one way of doing it. Again, if there's any questions, I said in my letter that I spent 25 years as a risk manager. Many of the things that Marwan has indicated is things that I agree with. And I think as far as concerns about somebody hitting that pole, from a liability standpoint, it stands with the driver. And I sat there and studied that, and it would be an unusual situation that would create that situation to occur. So that's all I have to say. If you have any questions of me, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Council, any questions at this stage? Councilmember Maloney?
I do not have a question, but I just wanted to thank Mr. Kellogg for bringing this forward. I do think it will change the look of the community as you're driving in there. Sorry. And anyway, I appreciate the efforts that you've gone to. Thank you.
All right. And Bob, I would stick around. We've got this on the agenda later. Thank you. All right. Now, item B, King County Public Health briefing. We're lucky to have Patty Hayes, the Director of Public Health, Seattle-King County, Karen Russell, the Area Manager for Federal Way and Auburn Public Health Centers. This is obviously relating to a matter that is on our agenda a little bit later on. Also under business regarding a resolution regarding the possible closing of King County Public Health clinics in Federal Way and Auburn. And so I believe Ms. Hayes has had the job now 2 days, or a second day here. Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Patty Hayes. I'm the new interim director of public health, and actually I can't think of a place I'd rather be on my second day than coming down and talking to you about the situation that public health is facing. It is a very unfortunate and heart-wrenching situation. I want to go through where our budget is so that you can get that landscape. I'll talk about where the cuts in public health are landing. We have been working diligently over the last number of weeks to have these type of conversations, to see and generate ideas. So let me just start with the basics. So public health has been in a situation for many years that has led to flattening, and this is not going to be a surprise. I'm sure that you have seen with other situations where government programs have been flat. But for public health, one of the things that we've seen dating back, as you'll see here, to 2009, as we were in the middle of the recession, is that the funding streams for public health that we had been counting on at the federal level and at the state level were drying up, and that there were not ways of backfilling that. What we did have over a number of years are situations where a funding level from the federal government came in as a one-time. The last one was 2 years ago when our work with pregnant women, which had been underfunded by the feds, through our efforts, we actually got a bolus of money back paid for about 3 years that helped to deal with some of this this funding gap that you see here. I'm personally flying to Baltimore on Friday. The bottom line that looks like it's a disastrous 60% cut is Medicaid administrative match, which has been funding that we've used in local communities to help make sure that low-income women and families are able to get access to enrollment and Medicaid wraparound services, as well as referral and linkage. It's a critical program for our maternity support services and others. The federal government across the country has been cutting back on that program. We've been in negotiations with them for the past 2.5 years. Because I have a maternal child health background, I've been in those conversations the past 2.5 years. We're actually flying back because we've been at a stalemate around this, with the fact that Washington State's been a leader in this work, a leader in enrollment. King County is one of the top counties in the country for enrollment, making sure people get access to health care. And it's your good staff that's in the room right here that's been doing that work. And it's been this cutback that really threw us over the edge this year, this dramatic drop. So I'm flying back there to try and finalize some sort of an agreement. But I've got to be honest with you, the best scenario is probably somewhere around that 40% loss. I don't see any signal from the federal government that we can recapture it. I do want to mention to the council that we've been very lucky to have our congressional delegation helping us with this, but across the country this is the movement. So this became a perfect storm this year for public health, and where we're at right now is we're facing a $15 million shortfall, $30 million for the next biennium. Mostly, the shortfall is in what we call our provision or our direct service line of business. These are our clinical healthcare services. One of the things with public health is we do a lot of work with restaurants, we do work in environmental health, we do work in infectious disease, but the funding for those programs are all categorical. There's no flexibility for me to be able to move that money around. The dollars that you saw in that former chart are really the flexible dollars that I have to work with. And I've been talking to the county exec and our county council about the fact that these cuts are mostly hitting in this provision line of services. What makes it even the worse and breaks my heart is that to save $1, we actually end up losing revenue because these clinics do the best they can of billing for Medicaid and other services where we can get that money. And so you get this multiplier effect. Now the good news is for every dollar that I can find to buy back a piece of this, because we're buying back revenue generating programs, then it helps buy more back. So it works both ways. So the proposed reductions, just to give you the scope of where it lands, we are taking around a $6 million hit in our prevention division. Again, that's reducing staff who are working to investigate communicable disease. Some of our chronic disease work that we've been doing a lot of success in the south end of the county. Our community-based public health practice work, this is our community partnership work, is facing about a $2 million cut in the biennium. Of course, we're going to do commensurate cuts in the office of the director. One of the first things I'm doing this week as the new director is scrubbing to see if there are more cuts that I can take in my central office without risking our ability to bill and respond to the federal government audits and those things that we have to do. But to make sure that we're driving the dollars to not risk services for families. But the majority of the cuts are in the Community Health Services Division, so that ends up being about $10 million per year. And I'll show you how those ended up. So this chart, and I have two charts for you, one which is specific to our clinics, and then another one that shows you what I'll refer to as our satellites. Almost all these clinics have staff that either part-time or outstationed with partners a couple of days a week, and I have a map to show you where those are. So the way the decision was made on the cuts, and I fully want to recognize, and when I had the privilege of meeting with the mayor last week, he rightly pointed out the impact to South County, and I want to acknowledge that. So let me tell you how we ended up with this map. The health department is a federally qualified health center, And because we have direct primary care services, we get enhanced payment that actually benefits our maternity support services, our work for moms and kids, and our family planning services. If we don't have that enhanced payment because of our federally qualified health center status, then we would not be able to, it would be even worse, we wouldn't be able to afford these services. So to keep that status, I need to have 2 primary care centers maintained in our system. So the 2 primary care centers, we don't have any primary care centers in the South End. I'm now learning from staff and the former director that there used to be those services down here, but they were transitioned to Health Point a number of years ago. So because public health drives services to where the most need is, this map begins to look this way. I needed to preserve the downtown public health primary care center and the East Gate. We're transitioning North Public Health primary care and Columbia primary care to partners. So Neighbor Care Health will be working with the University of Washington, setting up a new partner to take over those primary care clinics. The second thing we needed to do was look at what services are revenue producing, as well as where critical need is. One of those where we actually are lucky enough, because of our federally qualified health center status, to get the enhanced payment, and it allows us to underwrite programs that are not as fully funded, is our dental clinics. We have 5 dental clinics. And so because by keeping all of those dental clinics, I was able to avoid further clinic closures, we're maintaining those. And so the dental centers are at Eastgate, Renton, they're downtown, and they're at Lake City Way, which is near North Public Health. So by keeping those dental clinics, it actually prevented me from having to make an additional clinic closure. So with those, our options for closing centers did fall to this center in Federal Way. And we are very interested in any partnerships to be able to avoid these cuts. Where we're at right now with the council is this is really a dire situation in public health, and we no longer have sort of a bullet coming from another funding source. So I'm really out talking about this and working with staff and as many partners as I can to get the word out, because I think now is a time for creativity. Here's a look at with the satellites. So it gives you an idea of where we have additional services. We anchor these satellites to existing clinics. So, for example, you'll see the 2 in the lower right are in red. Those would be anchored to the closure of Auburn. I'm very pleased to tell you that a few weeks ago I met with the Muckleshoot tribe, and they are going to partner with the county to make sure we're preserving the service on tribal lands. So I was very honored to be invited to the tribe to go out and talk to them and to get their partnership on that. But as you see with the satellites, there are services that are mostly in this area embedded with partners like Health Point and their Midway Clinic. And we maintain a travel team that will keep those clinics that you see open. So the sad news I'm here to say is that if there's no option found, then the proposed closure of the Federal Way Public Health Center would be a loss of services for 13,500 low-income clients. That's our maternity support services, WIC, and family planning. I do want to say that public health has a model for the entire state here. We're really the last public health department that has held to this level, because our values are that public health really provides a unique direct service for these women and families and children. We provide in this county 94% of maternity support services. We integrate it with WIC so it's more cost effective. You don't have another partner that can do that. In other areas of the state, these programs have been torn apart and then they get picked up piecemeal by some of the hospital system or clinic systems. We would rather have those stay together for you. This will reduce the capacity to monitor and respond to problems and to prevent and treat HIV and STDs, obviously, but we're really concerned about that direct work that we're doing with moms and kids, where we're integrating the great work to help a pregnant mom quit smoking so that she can have a healthier child, to promote healthy eating and active living, which is so aligned with the great work you've been doing down here in Federal Way. So I appreciate the opportunity to come and just lay out this horrible scenario and any opportunity to work with you to avoid this and to maintain and somehow find a way to the future here, because I am not interested in death by 1,000 cuts in the health department. That's why I stepped up when Dow Constantine asked me to. So.
Well, Patty, thank you. We thank you very much for your presentation. I know the council's got a couple of questions. I think just a couple of thoughts that we've discussed, and thank you for including that, because when you showed the map, it did sort of, I kind of gasped a little bit, because obviously you've got some of those folks on the east side. And I've been spending some time thinking about this since our meeting, and 13,000 people, that's like the entire population of the city of Lake Forest Park. And then if you take the city, the population of patients at Federal Way and Auburn and put them together, that's like 24,000 patients, which is like the population of Mercer Island together, just patients. And then if you take, and then it looks like that whole swath. You get the Federal Way, Auburn, White Center, and now you're looking at, you're like 32,000 patients. And so we're looking, and I want to let everybody know, and I told Patty this, actually before my meeting with Patty, I had a phone conversation with Executive Constantine about the conundrum that we face, and we are working on some type of solution and try to keep these doors open. What that looks like, I'm not sure. I guess the one takeaway that we talked about was approaching this with a geographical equity and trying to figure out how we can do that. But those are just some preliminary thoughts. I'm going to get to our council members, and Councilmember Duclos raised her hand first.
Thank you, and thank you, Patty, for coming down. I'm sure this is not a pleasant experience for you to have to come and give this news. It is a concern. I used to be the head of the multi-service center, which is right next door to your facility down here. And believe me, I know how much traffic went in, because most of the people that went over there came to the multi-service center, the food bank, and get other services. Not to mention the fact that everybody went through our parking lot to get into yours. I have a couple of questions. First of all, do you have any ideas on what it would take to keep Federal Way open? And I'd like to hear those if you have some.
Yes, so the cost of buyback for this clinic is about $1.1 million per year. What we are doing right now is trying to talk with our partner HealthPoint, who, as you know, is in that building with us, with ideas that he might have, as well as I think the point about geography and looking at this as almost an area by area approach. I think now's the time for local areas to really help with talking with each other about how we need to care for our local community. So it is 1.1. We're still looking at, can we mitigate that somehow by some unique arrangement. But right now, that's the amount that has been in front of Executive Constantine.
Patty, I was on that point before I turn this over to Councilmember Cefados.
I have a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember.
Go ahead.
On that point, I was thinking about that instead of, after our meeting in which we had, and I talked to Dow about this as well, about, because I think this approach has been tried with the Metro buses as well, sort of pay as you go, or pay sort of a la carte. If this community wants this service, they have to step up. It does seem, though, that maybe the thing to pursue is that this should be distributed, since it's a countywide program, those costs should be distributed countywide, as opposed to be focused in on the, what are, a distressed population where one area or particular area bears the brunt of all of those costs.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would love to partner with all the mayors of the South End to go and to meet with Mercer Island. I love your ideas. I think that it should be a countywide approach. There was a time, as you and I talked, when cities participated in funding public health. And for a number of reasons, the requirement for that went away a long time ago. And it may be a time to really challenge throughout the system to have folks. So I really appreciate your comment and your idea.
All right, thanks, Patty. Councilmember
Wait,
Sepulveda. Oh, I'm sorry.
I had a
Your
second. Okay.
question.
But we will
You bet.
follow up, and I think we will look at any and all suggestions that you and anybody else from the community have for us. But in case all fails, what do we tell people here to do?
So that
I mean,
is the
when you
biggest,
look at the
that is the biggest
population in
challenge.
Federal Way in Auburn, compared to the rest of the county, we have the highest concentration of low-income people. What do we tell people to do?
I'm not, as in the past, trying to build a myth that this is not a cut. And I think we have to be honest, and that's why you have the staff here and the concerned citizens, is that I'm not going to say to you that people will go to our Kent Center, because I've got the data that shows that we know that people stay in their community. They're not going to go across I-5. So I think that your elected officials on the county council know that these cuts are real, that they do have to look at where we're making our priorities, and that's why I'm here.
So the message might be for people to contact their county council member. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanie. Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Patty, and thank you, Mayor. I just want to add to what you said, and thank you for explaining a little bit. You answered some of my questions, and you also asked my questions. And I'm really concerned because, like Deanie said, we do have a lot of low-income population here, and they're mostly families with children that are going to be highly impacted. And we're not only talking about young children, we're also talking about school-age kids who are not going to get the medical attention that they need, even to go to school in the morning. And so it's not only going to affect their health, medical health, it's also going to affect their whole well-being. And that's really a concern. And then when you look at the map that you just presented, it's South King County, Federal Way, Auburn, and then Greenbridge is the other one. That's also down here that serves our, could potentially serve our population. So with metro cuts coming up in September, which affects transportation, I'm just concerned that our people are not going to be served. And looking at HealthPoint website, I know they list WIC as part of their service, but I believe that's part of public health service, and so not necessarily their service, and maybe you can correct me if that's wrong. But I just want to say I'm concerned, and whatever we could do to partner, whatever we could do, I think we need to keep services here in South King County, and preferably, of course, in Federal Way.
Thank you so much. The WIC question that you raised with HealthPoint is true. And Tom Trumpeter, the CEO from HealthPoint, would have been here tonight. I've been in conversations with him. He just wasn't available tonight to be here as a partner with us. So you're correct, and I appreciate all your comments.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you. I appreciate your coming this evening to explain the challenges we face. I would like to point out a couple of additional things, and I appreciate the mention of the transit cuts, because these folks some of whom need to take a bus to get to a clinic, no longer have a bus that might have existed previously, or will not have that. But also, when we look at Federal Way and Des Moines and Burien, three of the cities in King County that are at the very lowest end of the cities in King County in terms of revenue per person. And so it's pretty ironic that we're faced with no availability of the public health clinic service in the two southernmost cities of King County. But I also would like to understand better, and I know I don't expect that there's time to go into that much detail this evening, but I would like to understand better the relationship of the public health service with the HealthPoint clinic, and how how that funding system works and why, because they're providing some of the services now, this is affecting the public health system in terms of clinics.
I'm happy to follow up with you.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilmember Selski.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Patty. I certainly don't envy you being in the position you're in, second day on the job. But I'm concerned about the financial aspect of this whole thing. And I know you may not have some of these numbers that I may seek at your fingertips, but I heard the number 1.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the operating cost of the Federal Way Clinic? Is that what I heard?
That's the
you
total operating cost. So that
Okay.
would be facility and the staffing.
Okay.
For all services.
1.1 million, okay, and that's annual.
That's annual.
And so, does that compare favorably with the other locations that are remaining open, or do they have a larger operating budget or smaller? And again, I know you may not have this, but I certainly would like to know.
One of the challenges with the Federal Way facility is, as a county-owned facility, there are additional costs that can come to bear with the maintenance and operations there that some of our other facilities where we're in a rental arrangement. And the Executive Constantine's aware of this, and we're actually looking at, is there a way to mitigate that, to bring that cost down? So it is a little more expensive than, say, some of our other facilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there certainly has to be ways to bring that down, but,
Yeah.
okay, so 1.1 million, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this, with 13,500 clients, or I think you referred to them as clients. So to me, that's a spending of about $81.50 per client for this facility, and I'm wondering how that compares, again, against the other facilities that are gonna remain open. That would be a number I would not expect you to have at your fingertips, but I certainly would like to look at that. Again, just to reinforce why it's Federal Way and really essentially Auburn that are taking this in terms of just that financial ratio.
But I think, Councilmember Selski, what I think I've heard and what I think Ms. Hayes has acknowledged is that those costs won't be incurred for those patients elsewhere because those patients will likely fall off the grid. They won't get treatment elsewhere.
Exactly, but just in terms of what the potential is.
Right, exactly,
Right,
because there
right.
may be a
Relative
healthy
cost.
percentage of those people that may need to seek that out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm gonna have some additional comments, but I'm gonna turn to Councilmember Honda.
Yes, I'm done. Thank
sorry.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you also for coming, excuse me, tonight to talk to us. And I'd like to thank the people in red shirts for coming out again to be in this chamber. These cuts are going to affect not just, they're going to affect our fire department and possibly our local hospital too as people call for aid. Has the King County Executive thought about those things that will happen? It's going to, if they can't go somewhere for help, for health care, they're going to wait until there's an emergency, and then they're going to call 911, or they're going to show up at St. Francis ER, and a little problem will become a big problem. I used to be a registered nurse, and we need it to stop the little problems from being big problems. And the only way we can do that is to be giving preventive care. So where would you suggest we send people if this cut happens? And realistically, do you think we can keep this clinic open?
Well, let me start with the last. I commit to you, and I think one of the reasons why I've been asked to step in this job is my background is moms and kids. You don't have anybody more passionate. There's a number of people in the room that can affirm this who have known me. There's nobody more passionate for moms and kids than me. And I have really stepped in to work as hard as I can to see a way forward on this with new partnerships, creativity, cost reduction, whatever we can do, because I do not want to see this clinic shut down here. So you have my commitment on that. I hope to be in front of you soon. with another story about this. I mean, do I have a magic hat, bullet, whatever right now? No, but I think if I'm not present and out here talking about it, we can't see our way forward because we do need creativity. It is a very different situation than in the past, from what I understand, where there have been cuts proposed and then it just got resolved by the council project. From what I understand, there's so many agencies that are in deficit spending, and I don't know what the conversation you had with the county executive around that, but I think that this requires new energy and new creativity.
I agree, Patty. When I was a little boy, I was raised by a single mom, and I just, this issue really, you spent a career and your professional experience working with, infant children and mothers, and I think everyone here has a real concern about this issue. When I spoke with Dow Constantine, our executive, I was struck by something he said that I want to share with you. For you Star Trek fans, he said he does not believe in no-win scenarios, and neither do we. And so we're gonna try to find some common ground and try to find a win-win scenario, and see if if there's a way moving forward we can keep those doors open and keep these 13,000 in Federal Way and the 24,000 combined with Federal Way and Auburn. So that's our commitment to the public as well. So I wanted to say that. So he did seem committed to talking about ideas, creative ideas going forward. I do think just the takeaway is I want to make sure that the areas that are most affected shouldn't bear the full brunt, and there's got to be a middle ground that perhaps we can reach. Any council, any other questions about this? Patty, thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
All right, and we're going to have a further discussion. This is actually, Patty, we're going to under council business, as you probably see, we're going to be discussing a resolution of under 6B. So we'll talk about that later in our business. At this time, I'd like to have our police chief, Andy Wong, talk to us about National Night Out and a report.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, members of the council. I am glad to report that my report will be a little more upbeat. We had a very, very successful National Night Out last Tuesday, which was held last Tuesday. And I want to thank the mayor and council for participating in the event. It was very well received by the citizens who participated that evening. And we actually rescheduled the council meeting to tonight so you all could participate. And it was a very nice addition. The goal of the National Night Out is to strengthen neighborhood spirit and to build our partnership, police-community partnership, as well as send a strong message to our criminals that our neighborhoods and our community is organized. And the only way that our police department can be effective in this community is to partnership with the community, and National Night Out is one of those events that allows us to partner with our community and build relationships. This year, Federal Way Police Department participated in the 31st Annual National Night Out, and this was our 18th year as an agency. We began our participating in this at the formation of our police department 18 years ago. We partner with South King Fire and Rescue and Target Corporation to attend these community events. This year was our record breaker for Federal Way Police Department in terms of the largest number of neighborhoods participating. We had 30. Typically we have 20, maybe 25 neighborhoods participating. So by far this year was the biggest event. This year we had 20 police officers participate from various units and 4 civilian staff. And we had about 1,200 participants throughout the community. And again, this year, City Council participated, South King Fire and Rescue, and it was certainly enjoyed by our citizens and was a complete success. Here's some pictures of from the event. Westway Community created a banner there. And also Silverwood neighborhood had a bouncy house, and it was just the weather was perfect and well attended. It was a very nice evening. So thank you very much for your support and your participation.
Thank you, Chief. They had A lot of great food. The chief told me to pace myself at the first place because they had great burgers and ribs, and we went to about, how many places did we go, Chief?
Went to 4 neighborhoods.
It was great. So thank you very much for your leadership. It was a great opportunity to see our neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Toys R Us demolition. Steve Eichert, our Deputy Director of Parks.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, and council members and public. I'm filling in for Ken Miller this evening, who's out of town, who is the PAC project director. I've been assisting him on this project. I've got a real brief PowerPoint here to show you the progress. As you know, the Toys R Us, July 10th, there was a ceremony to begin knocking down the building by Lloyd's Enterprises, who won the bid. And so here's just a few progressive shots. As you can see, they started taking the building apart and piling it different segments of the building for different places the recycling would go. Here it's sorted out with some of the concrete rubble that will be recycled and reused. The roof's entirely gone at this stage. Walls are starting to come down. We got one remaining wall here. And I just took this picture this morning. So the bottom line, toys are gone.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. And so, and the foundation or the cement slab is down,
Correct.
Is gone as well?
Yeah, this is just the subsoils remaining.
What happened to the trees that were in front?
The trees are still there in the planters in the parking lot.
Okay. Let's talk about that. All right. I have an idea. All right, Council, any other questions about this?
So,
Deputy Mayor Burbidge?
I would just comment quickly. Too bad, well, no, you can see the mountain there in that shot.
Yeah.
Go back one.
Right there.
You can see the view, Mount Rainier, terrific view. And today, unfortunately, coincidentally, was just a day when there were clouds.
Oh,
So
right.
but tomorrow maybe it'll be sunny again.
That's
We'll
right.
see it.
Councilmember Selski?
oh, thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Steve. This is a big first step towards something we really spent a lot of time and energy on in this city, and I'll tell you what, it looks good to have that pad removed as well, because now this is it's almost shovel ready, I would say. So so thank you.
All right. Council, any other comments or suggestions? All right. I offered to go back out there and help out with the cat again, but they said they had it taken care of. They let me take the cat or the backhoe a few times and punch a hole through the building, but when I asked how to back up the thing, they had to pull me out of the cab. So anyway, lots of fun.
Yeah, but you were really getting into that.
It was fun. It was fun. All right. Streets project update, Marwan Saloom.
Okay, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, member of the council, quick update on our progress with our capital improvement project. First of all, I'd like to thank all of the citizens of the city of Federal Way for their patience during the construction of these projects. We had a total of 10 capital improvement project, transportation capital improvement project that were under construction in 2014. And we have 8 of them all completed and came in within budget. And we have 2 remaining projects that's still under construction or to be started sometime this year. The project that they were completed is Lakota Middle School Safe Route School project. This is sidewalk improvement that was done on Southwest 312th Street. The second project is Southwest 312 at SR 509 intersection. This is a signal modification and roadway improvement. 320th at 20th intersection. This is a signal modification to create 2 double left on 320th Street. City Safety Project. This is a project that was 100% funded by the federal government. It's about $900,000, mainly to construct flashing yellow signal, 15 of them throughout the city. The 320th Preservation Project. This is an overlay project. This is also a project that was funded by the federal government for the overlay on 320th between I-5 and 11th Avenue. 2014 asphalt overlay that was completed. Lakota Middle School, 13th Avenue Safe Route School. This is a sidewalk on 13th Avenue right next to the Lakota Middle School. And 21st Avenue Southwest at Southwest 356 intersection improvement. And this is the project that we're happy to see it completed. It was a little bit challenging trying to see that project completed with all of the challenges we have during construction. The two projects that remaining is one of them under construction at the present time. This is the Federal Way High School at Sacagawea Safe Route School. This is a project on 14th Avenue between 312 and 308. It's under construction at the present time, and the scheduled completion date for that project is the end of August, just before school start. The last project is South 320th at 20th Avenue Water Quality Vault. This is the project right in front, on 20th, right in front of Town Square Park. The schedule for this project was to start next week. With the success we had on the movie at the park, and I guess the next movie at the park scheduled for September 6th. Today I had a meeting with the contractor trying to convince him to move the schedule for that project and to facilitate all of the scheduling we have on Town Square Park. And he agreed to move the project to the 1st of October. So we will have that project under construction 1st of October, and normally take about 30 days to complete that project. I have some before and after pictures, just show you a list of those projects. This is the Lakota Middle School, Safe Route School. This is a sidewalk right in front of the fire department. A picture before and after. This is Southwest 312 at SR 509 intersection. This is a signal improvement, and this is a sidewalk on 21st Avenue. 320th at 20th intersection improvement. This is a signal where double left were constructed. 21st at 336, also a picture before and after, and seems like my staff selected the right picture, showing a lot of traffic backing up on 21st Avenue before and no traffic at all after.
Funny how that works.
I hope that's the case, but I don't think so. And this is the city safety project. That's a list of all of the 15 intersections that we were able to construct flashing yellow arrow on them. This is 320th Preservation. This is a picture we were looking at earlier where it shows the flag right in the middle of the roadway. This is a 2014 asphalt overlay project. We have two major arterial that they were part of that project, 356 and also 320th Southwest and 11th Avenue Southwest also. All of those projects have been completed. Lakota Middle School, 13th, and you could see that the before picture where there's no sidewalk, and after picture, you're seeing the sidewalk on the west side of that roadway. As I said earlier, the ongoing project remaining is the Safe Route School on 14th and the other one on 320th at 20th. That's conclude my presentation.
Councilmember Duclos.
Yeah, I just want to say I love those flashing yellow lights. They really do, you know, when there's no traffic coming and you can make that turn on yellow, it really cuts back the cars from queuing up in the turn lane. It really is a nice feature. Thank you.
It's an excellent feature because what does that provide for us to reduce the timing of that signal? So therefore, you are not wasting as much time because most of the traffic have already passed through the intersection, and you're able to minimize and maximize the through traffic.
Councilmember Selski.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Marwan. It's really refreshing to see the progress that we're having in the city right now, and we are definitely having progress with our roads and streets. But a National Night Out, one of the things that I was hit up with the most, especially in one particular neighborhood, were people who were newly moved into the city within the last year were just commenting and were really happy about how well our streets are working in terms of the overlay. I know we're all proud of this. We've all talked about this before, but it came out that night, and I'm sure it did with the other council members as they were visiting. And I was really proud to say, yep, we spend a good amount of money on that, but it's money well spent, and obviously it's working because he was making this comment. So thank you very much.
I believe the commitment that the city council have for the overlay is recognized throughout the state, because most of the regional meeting I attend, professional in my profession who have similar job, they are envy of what we have in the city of Federal Way as the commitment of the council for the overlay and the quality of our streets. So.
Great. Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you. Marwan, thank you very much for this presentation. I particularly like your use of color and with the coding system there, and then the map that corresponds to the projects. And I think this is very informative to our city, to all the folks who are interested. And I would request that whether it might be possible to draw attention to this on the city's website as a presentation, so that people have a sense of the impressive number of projects the city has accomplished and is continuing to work on.
We could definitely do.
We'll do that. Chris
Thank
in the
you.
back of the room who handles the website is shaking his head yes, so that means the answer is yes.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Thank
Marwan.
you.
Appreciate it. All right, and we'll get right on that, Deputy Mayor. Under Mayor's Emerging Issues and Report, Tim Johnson, if you could, Tim, if you could make your way to the podium real quick. We have a brand new, I'd like to announce, and it was in the paper last week, the appointment of our Economic Development Director, all the way from Sacramento, California, Tim Johnson. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council members. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. I've spent the last week. We normally don't talk about personnel issues in open forum, but the mayor and Deputy Chief of Staff Brian Wilson suggested that since I was involved with the Sacramento Kings retention, that I spend a week at Basketball Fans Anonymous at the Betty Chevrolet Clinic in the Palm Springs area, so that I become familiar with the sports teams here in Seattle. In particular, not wearing red jerseys anymore and making sure that I'm wearing a Seahawk jersey when appropriate. So I look forward to it. I'm here this week to help city staff with the New Market Tax Credit application for the Performing Arts Center. That is identified to be, needs to be completed and in the hands of community development entities that will be applying for New Market Tax Credits by middle of September, as their applications are due to U.S. Treasury the first week in October. So I think it's important that we get that into as many CDEs as we possibly can, and as soon as possible, so that you have a real good chance of getting those dollars for the center. So I'm here all week. If you need me, I'll be right here.
Great. And Tim, can you, for those here tonight and for those watching, the New Market Tax Credits are a funding mechanism that we're utilizing for our Performing Arts and Conference Center that we have greenlit earlier this year. And Tim, could you tell us just briefly about your experience with New Market Tax Credits?
Sure, Mayor. I sit on the board of directors of the largest New Market Tax Credit provider in California, and one of the top 10 largest in the nation. It's called the Clearinghouse Community Development Financial Institution. And even though we've done $3.2 billion in projects in New Market Tax Credits in California, I'm pleased to say that we've even worked here in Washington at the request of your congressional representatives. Specifically, we did a very large project for the Port of Aberdeen, for that community, and retain jobs there. But I think it's significant in the context of what you're looking at, that Washington, the state of, has only received something like $347 million in New Market Tax Credits over the last 15 years. So how do I say this politely? I think it certainly has been an underwhelming use of this tool, and is one that you should have and you are obviously eligible for. and I think it's real important. By the way, I might add one last thing. You were looking for opportunities to save the clinic and things of that nature. We do a tremendous amount of that work building and renovating clinics throughout California in some of the hardest hitting areas that you've ever been into, and like South Central LA is a good example of where we spend a tremendous amount of our time working. New market tax credits can be used for government operations and can be used for business operations, not just for capital improvements.
In fact, that's funny you say that, because when we sat down with our consultant, who we have contracted for this, they said that the medical facilities were sort of the up and coming really emphasis as it related to new market tax credits. I hadn't actually really connected that with this pending issue. Let's talk about that during your visit here and ongoing. Okay. We're really excited you're here, Tim, and Council is going to have an opportunity to talk with you while you're here this week, and then you're slated to start the second week of September. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Happy to have you on board. Thank you for being up here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Also, I wanted to introduce our interim Community Development Director, Larry Frazier. Larry, can you stand up and introduce yourself? Let's give him a round of applause. Larry, just to the microphone there real quick. How many years do you have in municipal service here in the state of Washington and in the Northwest? Oh, I think you got to push your button on. Mike.
I hate to admit it, 53 years. Total experience. I graduated with my undergraduate degree in 1960. 61 I got the job, and I've been involved back and forth for a number of years.
Yeah.
And so I have bring to you some experiences which I hope will be beneficial to your organization here. I've had a chance to deal with your staff, and they're up and running all the time and doing a great job. And we'll see if we can get some more emphasis and do some good things.
Thank you, Larry. When years ago in the early 1980s, he was Booth Gardner's head of community development for Pierce County. So I keep asking him to tell me all these Booth Gardner stories. So anyway, thank you, Larry. It's great to have you on, and we'll be moving forward in that in this process. Now, John, come on up, sir. John Hutton, who's on the agenda later tonight for confirmation of Parks Director. John, tell us what we're looking at that picture, what we've been looking at.
Well, the picture in front of you, I'm proud to let you know about that. It was our first ever movie night at Town Square Park. We are very excited to report to you that we had 936 people attend our very first meeting, or our very first movie at the park. Mayor Farrell wonderfully described it as feeling as if he was in Federal Way's living room, and that was a great description. It was an amazing show. We showed the Lego movie. It was incredibly attended, beautiful night, 26-foot screen and high definition Blu-ray with a tremendous sound system. Went without a hitch. Everything was perfect. In fact, everything was awesome, which is a quote out of the movie. So we were extremely happy.
Dude, that was my line.
Sorry, I will give you credit. So, but I had to steal it. So I can report to you that we also are having a movie on September 6th. We are showing the blockbuster hit Frozen, and we are going to be doing a costume contest. That is a huge hit, and we'll be doing a costume contest. We're going to try and involve recreation at a high level with a costume contest that will be very, very fun. Should be a good show. Looking forward to a great night. We had great support from staff. Several city council members were there. Very much appreciated to see you there. And everybody had a great time. Nothing but positive comments afterwards. It was just a tremendous evening. It was the night before the supermoon. The sun was out, the mountain was pink, the moon was over the mountain. It was literally perfect. Couldn't have gone much better, so we're very happy.
There were two moments I want to tell everybody about, because I want to share something. There was a moment before the movie started where everybody started filling in, and I couldn't believe the stream of cars that were coming in, and every parking spot and if you've been out to the site, we've got a 4-acre Town Square Park. It's a massive site, and I couldn't believe the volume of people that were coming in. We filled the parking lot. where people were parking or at the old Toys R Us site, or at the, at the PAC site. They were parking at the Sound Transit parking garage. They were like having to walk in, and there was a moment where you could just see right about dusk the Rainier, the moon, the huge crowd. It was just beautiful. And then as I'm looking in this panorama, I see a 150-foot line for people for that free popcorn. And I'm like, and it's 15 minutes before the movie starts. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I ran over there, followed closely by Councilmember Honda and the deputy mayor, and we were feverishly like filling up popcorn bags for this line that's like 100 feet long. And we had State Representative Linda Kochmar that was there. We had the chair of our Parks Commission, Mark Kopang, and we were really like stuffing these bags as fast as we could and passing it out. There are actually pictures on our website right now. And you know what? As Deputy Mayor Burbridge and Councilmember Honda were handing me the bags and we're handing them out, Federal Way felt like a real small town right then. And it just was it was a great moment. So, good work, John.
Thank you very much, and thanks again for all your help making that happen.
All right, thank you. All right, so we had at the Parks Committee meeting tonight, we had a discussion about what we're going to be doing with our town square park, and there was somewhat of a discussion about amenities that we're going to be adding, trees, playground equipment, a possible water feature, a shelter, and I'm going to turn this over to Councilmember Honda to talk about the policy question I think that needs to be addressed before we start adding amenities to our park. Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. We had our monthly Parks Committee meeting this afternoon at 4:30, and one of the questions that we were asked was to approve some playground equipment for the Town Square Park. And the question that came out of that was, is this a temporary park or is it a permanent park? And once we start adding things to it, it becomes more of a permanent park. So the question that came out of the committee tonight was, we will be discussing in the very near future what the council and the city would like to do with this piece of property. If we would like to keep it at the entire 4 acres as a park, or if we will sell part of it, which has always been the master plan for downtown Federal Way. So at the September 2nd council meeting, we will be discussing this. We, of course, welcome your comments and your opinions. And Councilmember Duclos, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you've summed it up well. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It'll be a great discussion. So, but please, we are interested in the public's opinion of what they'd like to see us do with that piece of property, if you want the whole 4 acres as a park or just half of it as a park. There will always be a park there. We just don't know how big.
You took my line. All right. Exactly.
Sorry.
Councilmember Maloney.
Do you mind if I expand on it a little bit, since I was previously on the Parks Committee when when we were talking about it to some degree. I just wanted to say that the plan previously for 2 acres was to have a park, and the other 2 acres was to have mixed use, some sort of commercial, residential, office space type of thing, so that you'd have pedestrians and activity down in that area. And also kind of a tax base, hopefully, conceivably. And so I just wanted to kind of round it up so the community knows, yes, the park will, if we go forward with selling half of it, the park will still be there, but the rest of it will be a lively, active area.
And I do think that we're talking about a water feature added there, and I think what's driving the timing of this is we can't put a water feature and move that. And I think that ultimately we need to come down on, if we're going to dedicate the entire 4 acres in our downtown to a park, we need to come to that conclusion. If that's, and communities have. Imagine, probably the most expensive real estate in the world is in New York City, where Central Park is right now. And that's a decision they made over 100 years ago to say, this belongs to everybody. It's their living. And actually probably what the model for this park is Bryant Park at about 42nd and 6th in New York City, on the backside of the New York Public Library. And that's really what they call New York's Town Square Park, in which they have movies. That's where I got the idea from Town Square Park, to have movies in our park. The real idea is, are we going to carve out this 4 acres and build around it, or are we going to have the 2 acres? And that's the policy decision that I think is probably needs to be teed up in the very near future. Councilmember Duclos.
Yeah, and I was the one that raised the issue during the committee, because the playground is fine, but you know, once you bring things in and people start using it, you can't take it away. And we've not decided whether we wanted to use the whole 4 acres as a park, or if we wanted to cut it in half. Now, I've been to San Francisco a lot, and I've seen it change over the years, and it's become a cement city now.
Right.
But they do have one park, and they did save that, and that is where they have their meetings. That's where a lot of politicians, you'll hear them speaking, and they'll have a lot of events there in that area. The rest of the city basically has no green space. And I want us to have green space down there, so I think we as a council need to decide how much of that we want to keep. We started talking about this before the big recession hit, my first term on the council, and we all wanted a nice park down there. And we also wanted a water feature. I'm not going to let you off the hook on that before I leave this council. There's going to be water in
I agree.
that
We're going to
park.
do it. It's just a matter of where.
And so I think it's important that we just decide now so that we can move forward on what we want to put in there.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Moore?
Yeah, and if I can add, just to obviously, and I think we're all in agreement when I say this, to encourage feedback from our Parks Commission as well on this topic.
Right. Oh, absolutely. In fact, actually, I made a presentation regarding the playground equipment, shelter, shade, trees, last Thursday. I was before the commission. And because we're going to be adding trees to one of the things I should say is we're adding shade trees and beautiful trees around the park. And that we're going to be doing. And we talked to them about the playground equipment and got their buy-in about this, but I think it provoked a larger policy issue. So we happen to have the chair, Mr. Kopang, Mark Kopang, who's present, the chair of the Planning Commission, the Parks Commission, and we're going to include them in this discussion as well as we move forward and invite them to that September 2nd process. So I do think it's important that they're included, but I also think we're starting to make some moves that we really, especially with the water feature, I think we need to figure out exactly where that goes. You can't be fish and fowl. You've got to be one or the other, and we got to figure out what this looks like. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you for remembering my name. We need a plan. That's what we need. We need a plan for the future, and we'll be talking about that.
That's right. Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Moving forward. Again, just in regard to the update and emerging issues, I attended the Fusion, as did many of my colleagues here. That was a great event. Yesterday, we had Congressman Adam Smith come to my office, and we had a good conversation about new market tax credits and any assistance we can get from Congress in tracking down those funds. Then I drove him over to our Town Square Park and talked to him about our PAC site and had a good conversation with them. So I wanted to let you know about that. And today we had this area was used for a meeting room for the Advancing Leadership Youth. A number of, I think about 24 high school students led by Terry Hickel, who is the executive director and the leader of Advancing Leadership, and this was for the high school groups. So it was a great opportunity to talk with them about Advancing Leadership Youth. That's my report, and at this time I'll turn this over to citizen comment. I've got 1, 2. I only have 3 sheets. If anybody wishes, there's 4. Remember, you're limited to 3 minutes unless you're speaking for more than 5 people that are present. And I'll go ahead and remember we want to keep them to the issues at hand. Let's see. Robin Korak. And after that, Tracy Hills. And then Bill Gates.
Thank you. Robin Korak, CEO for the Multi-Service Center. I want to thank Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, and all the Federal Way City Council members for the opportunity to speak publicly on the matter of the proposed King County Public Health Center closures in Federal Way and Auburn. As the CEO of a nonprofit organization, I can certainly empathize with the situation that King County Public Health is in, and I don't envy their position of having to make some very difficult choices. At the same point in time, I have some very grave concerns about the geographic inequities in the proposed plan and the potentially devastating impacts to the communities of Federal Way and Auburn. You know, we've talked about it here before, I've heard it said before, that South King County, and it's true, has one of the highest rates of poverty in all of King County, and one of the highest rates, if not the highest rate of poverty in the state, and Federal Way and Auburn are certainly a big part of that. The Multi-Service Center since 1971 has been serving low-income residents of South King County. Last year we served over 47,000 individuals, and 90% of those were considered to be very low income, according to Housing and Urban Development AMI poverty guidelines, which in real terms means that for a family of 4, you would make no more than roughly $26,000 a year. And given the skyrocketing costs of transportation, housing, and food, it's very daunting to try and make ends meet on that amount of money. What you may not know is that 50% of the individuals who came to the Multi-Service Center for help last year were residents of either Federal Way or Auburn. That's a huge number. And traditionally, many of the customers that have come to Federal Way have also been customers of the Federal Way and Auburn public health clinics. And so we look at the individuals that come to us. Some of them come to us because of an unexpected health crisis that has put them in a very challenging financial situation. Some are trying to find work, some are working and struggling to make ends meet. We know that the ability to access quality health care is critical to one's ability to obtain and maintain employment and achieve financial stability. We know that the ability to access quality health care is critical to a child's ability to succeed in school. And with the proposed closures, many families and individuals will have to travel further north for access to quality health care, and it's an additional transportation cost and a financial burden that, quite frankly, many of them can't afford, and so their health and well-being is potentially compromised. And so again, I have a great deal of sensitivity to and understanding of the situation King County Public Health is in, and certainly understand that cuts must be made. I implore King County Public Health to continue to work with the community to look at ways to come up with a plan that, instead of having geographic inequities, reflects the commitment to regional equity and a commitment to helping those communities with the highest levels of need. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Tracy Hills. And then Bill Gates.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and Deputy Mayor and Council. I'm kind of disappointed with this city because you guys did not do as I suggested, had Nation Night Out at a park instead of somewhere where I couldn't find it, and my other neighbor Betty, she couldn't find it either. We should be ashamed of ourselves because the other towns are having competitions of that Nation Night Out, and whoever the best city is gets a prize or something, is what I heard. And there's a lot of towns that do that, like Renton and I forget the other ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Mr. Gates.
Good evening. My name is Bill Gates, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council members. I'm here to speak about the closure of the King County Public Health Clinics. Speaking as an individual, the closing of the clinics in Federal Way, I'll simply say, would be a very terrible thing to have happen to thousands of our citizens in this area who use this clinic. Not to mention the 38 employees, I guess, who will be laid off. This closure will eliminate necessary services for over 13,000 low-income people, primarily women, infants, and children. I urge each of you to vote for the resolution opposing closure of the public health clinic in Federal Way this evening. Now let me change hats. Speaking as chairman of the Board of Fire Commissioners for South King Fire and Rescue, our next commissioners meeting is August 26th, and this topic will be on our agenda. We will prepare a resolution for potential ratification supporting the position of the City of Federal Way, wherein we would oppose the closing of both the Federal Way and Auburn clinics. If these two clinics close, as it's been said, it would leave the southernmost part of King County without a public health clinic. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Gates. Ed Plumley. and then Betty Taylor. Hi, Ed.
Good evening, Mayor. Is this working properly? Okay. Deputy Mayor and council members, I'm here also as a assistant chief of the fire department here in town. Spent all of my career, 40 plus years in emergency services in King County in one way, shape, or form, as a paramedic, as a firefighter, now as an assistant chief. Actually worked for the health department for about 20 years. I'm here tonight to express the concerns, kind of the mirror them of Commissioner Gates about the closure of the clinic here in Federal Way and in Auburn. First, I'd like to voice our support for the resolution going forward later tonight, and I applaud those who prepared that. I thought it was an excellent report, well done. I got a chance to look at that earlier. I'd like to go over three main areas of concern, and they are the impact of the closures. We've heard some about that previously. Kind of the timing of the closures, and the lack of a process that included kind of all the public health partners. The fire department is a primary caregiver. The EMTs in our department have responded to about 13,000 medical type alarms annually. We see everything from simple falls where people need help getting off the floor. We see cardiac arrest, auto accidents. We also see, we deliver children in the field. We do all of the kind of the primary care needs when people don't have any other choice, basically. And as we understand it, the cuts that will happen will impact 13,000, I've heard 13,500 people. These services, proposed anyway, closing in Federal Way, affect people who literally have no other options. Programs that support low-income pregnant women and children from infancy to 5 years old and the family planning unit there will be impacted. And to my knowledge, public health is the only place where women can receive family planning with care without charge. Deputy Mayor Burbidge mentioned the Health Point partnerships, and I'm sure there probably are more that are public health-minded partnerships that could be explored. The impacts to the thousands of women and children who receive assistance to the public health clinics with the closure in January cannot go unquestioned. And I have a few questions. Who will be, and these are a little bit repetitive, who will be left out when the resources are not available for specific programs like WIC? And I'm not sure what led to the budget shortfall, but the charts that I saw earlier looked to me like it was somewhat predictable.
You got 30 seconds.
Somewhat predictable. Yet Federal Way is being asked to shoulder the majority of the impact, I believe, Federal Way and Auburn area. And if you look at the map, this whole western ridge basically is without any sort of public health. So I think that's somewhat unfair. The timing I think is too short. And I'll jump into perhaps what can help. In the county, I've been part of many processes where they have gotten stakeholders throughout the community basically.
Go ahead, Ed. Finish your thought.
Stakeholders to really join in a process together to come up with good resolution to situations. A 60-day timeline that we've heard about this 60 days ago till the end of the year and drop services on 13,000 is unacceptable, I believe. So somehow we need to get some partnerships together quickly of all the health partners, and I include us to be one of those, to really begin to focus on the problem at hand and try to make sure that in January 1st, if that's a proposed cut, that there is something in place for the people that need our help.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And I think, Deputy Chief, I think your comment dovetails exactly with Councilmember Honda. Her concerns is that these folks, and I'm sure Patty's listening to this as well, these folks will end up back into the healthcare system. The question is how, and are they going to be sent, by ambulance to the hospitals? Are they going to show up in the emergency rooms? And are they going to be more acute at that time and more serious, essentially? And so, and more life-threatening. So we hear that.
I spent my entire career helping people that really sudden things happen or predictable. And in these cases, preventative services, I think, are going to be eliminated that could prevent those sorts of cases going forward. I'm mostly disappointed about the process. I mean, to hear about this 60 days ago, I think is not Patty's fault, certainly.
Right.
But I think there's that accountability factor. And I do believe there's a possibility to get an effort in place. And there's many partners out there. So I think we're one of them.
When we're looking for maybe even a short-term solution where we're reaching out, that's one of the things I talked to, we're talking to our legislative folks and our lobbyist team to see if maybe there's some funding we can get in an emergency 6-month funding for the shelter to keep the doors open until we find a long-term solution. And that's exactly what we're talking about, trying to really find creative ways to address this.
Good, because I think there are partnerships that are undiscovered yet that we can unfold.
I agree. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, and you know, I think it's also important for the folks that are watching at home that may not realize we've got 6 people in the audience with red shirts that say "Danger, these cuts can kill," and the minutes of this meeting should reflect that, because we don't have more sheets, but I want to make sure that your presence here is acknowledged and appreciated. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
All right, Betty Taylor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Betty Taylor, and I wasn't going to get up and say anything about it. I thought it was just going to sit and just listen. But then when Andy got up and talked about Night Out, then I said, well, let me get up here and say something about that. Because as he began to talk about the numbers, those numbers, okay, he was saying that let me see, over 30 neighborhoods participated, and there was a number, the total participation was 1,900 people. That's bad. That is so bad for this city. You know, and this city, we have over 90,000 people in the city of Federal Way, and we can only come together with 1,900 people. That's bad. That makes us look bad compared to the other cities like Renton and Fife and Tacoma, where they get together in big places like parks, and they come out in multitudes and multitudes. And let me piggyback on what Tracy was saying about the prizes. You know, like cities compete for prizes, and they compete and they win. Well, last year Kent won. They got the most people. They got the most. We should get on board with everybody else. We should not represent with 1,900 people in a city of 90,000 people. When I look at this picture right here, and when I seen all this right here, that's a crowd. Night Out has to be in an area like that. Everybody together under, we can appreciate the fact that that there was like communities participated, but it's really bad when you think about the numbers. When I think about the 4th of July, the Red, White, and Blue Festival, think of the numbers. How many people come out to that? Well, why can't we get the same number to come to Night Out? Why does it have to be diminishing? And then when Andy was talking about this is the best that this city has done in 18 years, that's a shame. That's embarrassing. That is so embarrassing. 18 years and all we can do is 19,000 people? I mean, 1,900? That's bad. That is really bad in a city of 90,000. What we need to do, you guys talking about banners all over the place. There needs to be a National Night Out banner. You're talking about putting flags, put banners. National Night Out should be downtown Federal Way. So when people come to the city, they can see that banner. That's gonna draw people to the city. When you go to Auburn, you see those banners. That draws people to that city. We need people to come to the city. Let's do it the right way. I don't want to see 1,900 next year. That's terrible.
All right. Thank you, Betty. Betty is the reason, she came to us and spoke to us. It's the reason why we delayed, why we're having the council meeting on the 2nd week of this month, because normally our council rules say we meet on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays of every month. Betty Taylor is the reason we're meeting today, because we moved our council meeting to this week so the council members and our police chief could actually attend the National Night Out. I think we had 30 locations and we were in the neighborhoods. Clearly it's a policy decision about whether we want a central gathering place versus all these, these 30 different locations. In fact, there were so many locations out throughout the city where people were in their neighborhoods and having barbecues and talking to their neighbors that, the chief and I, over the course of 2.5 hours, and there were other council members, could only hit a certain number of meetings. We were going, we're running around in cars going to these different locations. So anyway, Betty, it's food for thought for next year. Thank you very much. Councilmember Duclos and then Councilmember Maloney.
I just want to say I like Betty's idea. I think it's great. I know my neighbors. I don't have to barbecue with them. I see them all the time. But I think having something in our town square park or down at Celebration Park that's open to everybody and people bring some things and we have some food there and vendors there or whatever, I think that'd be a great idea.
Okay.
That would bring us together as an entire community, not just a neighborhood. So thanks, Betty. Appreciate it.
Okay, you know what, we got to actually, before I call out, I've got a number of speakers. It's going to be Councilmember Maloney, Councilmember Honda, and then Councilmember Moore. But I think what we should do moving forward, my suggestion, I get to talk out of turn because I'm calling the people. I think at our retreat in January, we should put this in as a rule that in August, we'll refer to it as the Betty Taylor rule, but what we'll do is make sure, because we have never been able, as council members, never been able to attend National Night Out because we always had a council meeting because it conflicted with our rules. So something food for thought. Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you. Betty, you're always so impassioned, and I really appreciate that. I actually think it might be a good idea to, and we can talk about it at the retreat, but this is just what hit me. Maybe we do a combination because some of the people, some of the neighborhoods, they do know their neighbors. Others don't, and they might want to take that time within their own neighborhoods to get to know each other. But in a case where they want to do a more central gathering, maybe we could talk about it at some point, maybe a combination of things. The idea is simply to get people out, getting them to know each other and talk. So whatever the venue is not as important as that fact. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Honda.
It's hard tonight, isn't it? I've been talking to Betty about this for about 3 years, and I certainly do agree with her. And I had talked with her earlier about having something for the entire city, and then early in the evening, and then going out to the neighborhoods, just as Councilmember Maloney has just suggested, because I'm sure some neighbors would like to do their own event. But there are a lot of neighborhoods that didn't have an event, and perhaps would like to have had some place to go. So I think it's a great idea, Betty, and one day it's going to happen, hopefully next year.
Policy is the art of compromise. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The phrase, "it's a new day," is what's ringing in my ears as I heard your fiery speech, Betty. It's only the beginning, and there's a lot of things that we've done as a community excuse me, let me say that again. We've done a lot to, just this year, just to bring the whole community together. And I'm quite excited about the future because I know more and more we're going to be doing events like this, where a community becomes one community. And so I think that was my only comment that I wanted to add. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you. Just briefly, because so many valuable comments have already been expressed. I would certainly be open to a combination event, but I would hate to lose the opportunity for folks to have neighborhood gatherings. I attended several of them, and the first one I went to was at Viewcliff, and I think there were at least 70 people there when I got there, and they said that they were sure that there had been 90 earlier. So clearly there's a strong interest in having some neighborhood opportunities, and sometimes neighborhoods don't get together at other times, and so this is an opportunity for that and for people to share their concerns directly with each other. But for those who would prefer to gather at a central place and have that opportunity, that's fine. If there's a strong interest in that also, I'd certainly be open to that. But in any event, I consider what happened Tuesday evening to be a tremendous success for our city.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Honda, since you chair the Parks and Public Safety Committee, this would be under public safety. Is this something your committee would want to take on and discuss now in the lead up to the retreat?
We will add it to our list.
All right. Thank you. All right, any other discussion on this item? Councilmember Safa-Dawson.
I was going to wait to talk about National Night Out, but since it's now become part of our discussion, I also want to say thank you, Betty. And one of the Marine Hills, I believe, when we were there, one of the ideas or suggestions that came from a resident there was, why are we only doing this once a year? Maybe we could have it twice a year, where we can get together as community, as neighbors, and just have an event. It doesn't have to be only on National Night Out. And I think this conversation may lead to that, because I believe it's a great idea. And I personally only got to go to 3 communities because of the time constraint and you do want to visit. So maybe this is another way of making this a reality in our community and have it twice a year if possible, because that was brought up.
All right, great comment. Thank you very much. Council, any more comments on that? All right, Betty, thank you very much. Everybody who commented, thank you. Really appreciate it. We appreciate it. All right, now moving on to the consent agenda. Items A through F. These items have already gone through a council process, been voted on by those council committees, and they are on for a collective vote. Item A, minutes from the July 15th, 2014 regular and special meetings and July 29th, 2014 special meeting. Vouchers is B. C, monthly financial report from June of this year. D, Zayo Group LLC conduit lease agreement. E, Mark Twain NTS 2014 25 Drive South and 22nd Drive South, South 284th Place to Star Lake Road. And item F, demolition of structure located at 28866 Pacific Highway South. Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you. I move approval of items A through F on the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, it's been moved in second. Is there any discussion or any item that would be requested to be pulled? All right. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The measure passes. Now, moving on to council business. First up, first order of the day, 6A, confirmation of Parks Department Director John Hutton. I'd just like to say that I've been mayor now 7.5 months, and this was one of the easiest decisions I've had the pleasure of making since being sworn in. John is a 22-year employee. He's was the director of programming for our Parks Department. He's just got a lot of energy, and he's done a tremendous job for managing our Red, White, and Blues, which is a complete success. Probably about 20,000 people there, and a great program. The opening of our Town Square Park, the grand reopening of the Ability Whirl and our Family Funland. We've just had item after item after item, and John has just done a tremendous job. So with that, we have under this form of government a process by which the mayor makes an appointment, and this is one of the appointments that is subject to council confirmation. And so at this stage, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, do we have a motion?
Yes, thank you. I move to confirm the appointment of John Hutton as the city's new Parks Director.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's official, John. You are our new Parks Director. Let's give him. Parks really add quality and a vibrancy to a community. We've been talking about that today, so we expect great things, John. I also want to acknowledge our Deputy Director, Steve Eichert. It was my honor and privilege to elevate him to the post of Deputy Director of the department. He's been with the city, I believe, 24 years. Is that right? Yeah, one of the very few early employees. In fact, actually, this city is 24 years old. And we are going to celebrate our silver anniversary as a city next year. And there'll be a large to-do about that, I'm sure. So thank you, Steve, for all your service to this community. All right, now for the main event. Item B, resolution, possible closing of King County Public Health and Clinic in Federal Way. Presentation, Mr. Watson. I presume. Sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. My name is Jeff Watson. I'm the Community Services Manager. I'm afraid I'm going to be a little bit redundant given the impassioned comments of my colleagues from the Multi-Service Center and from the Fire District. But, and with all due respect to Patty Hayes and the circumstances that she and public health find themselves under, their budget constraints notwithstanding, what they're proposing would in fact close 2 of the southernmost health clinics in the county, leaving low-income persons and families without support for programs critical to their well-being. The closure eliminates the Maternity Support Services Program, which serves more than 4,400 low-income pregnant women and infants. The closure eliminates the WIC program, which supports over 7,300 low-income women and children with nutrition support. And it eliminates the family planning for more than 1,800 clients annually. Furthermore, it will eliminate 38 jobs and force 13,500 persons who rely on the clinic for nearly 39,000 visits annually and who can least afford it to travel farther for important healthcare services. So the item before you is a resolution for the council's consideration opposing the proposed closure of the public health clinic in the city of Federal Way, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, are there any questions? Have we all had the opportunity to review the resolution? Deputy Mayor Burbidge, I know that you and I had briefly discussed, were there any possible additions or
Well, I believe the resolution is very well worded, and I'm just wanting to make sure that we send it in a very timely fashion, so I hesitate to complicate the situation. But if there is significant interest in adding any further ideas to a communication, I would certainly support that additionally as a possible follow-up. I think that might make sense.
one of the things I may do, if I could, we're approaching us, and Patty's here, so we'll just share our strategy. One of the ideas is to be this resolution is going to go out there. There may be an opportunity for an op-ed in the in the larger regional media at some point. What we're trying to do is really work with the executive as he puts his budget together at this stage, and we're working on that. But obviously we have to advocate for this for our community. So before any kind of advocacy like that, before we go in that broader, I will certainly get feedback and input before anything like that goes out from my office, from me personally.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Watson? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councilmember Honda, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do, thank you. I move to approve the proposed resolution opposing the proposed closure of the King County Public Health Clinic in Federal Way.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The measure passes. All right. Item C, we had the American flag installation at 320th near Highway 99. We had a presentation already and a pretty vibrant discussion on that. Councilmember Selski, is there a motion?
Yes, I have a motion. I move to authorize staff to purchase and contract for the installation of a 60-foot high memorial flagpole with flag and associated equipment and lighting to be installed within the widest section of the median on South 320th between State Route 99 and 20th Avenue South, along with installation of flagpole brackets on street luminaire poles along South 320th Street between 11th Place South and 23rd Avenue South, and authorize the mayor to assign any contract associated with that work, the cost of which is not to exceed $35,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, council, it's going to look great. Thank you very much. Before we get too far into the meeting, the folks who came with the red shirts, thank you so much for being here. And actually all the folks that are here to talk. We appreciate your commitment and your passion for the issue. All right, New Dawn Case Management System, a presentation by our IT manager, Thomas Fitchner. And we also have our esteemed, I should have introduced you before, Your Honor, our esteemed Judge Dave Larson.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm going to pull up the presentation here, and the judge is going to take the first part of this.
Thank you.
So, Your Honor.
This is gives me flashbacks to my school board days. I even voted for John Hutton when I was in the back of the room by impulse. So, it was
the minutes should reflect that, Stephanie.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to have an opportunity to speak about this. I want to tell you just briefly a little bit about my background when it comes to this, the case management systems. Back when I had my law firm in the early 90s, when the 4633 computer first came out,
For those people that know computers, that's a long time ago. The firm I had, along with my brother-in-law, developed a case management system before they existed for essentially making my law firm relatively paperless. And then before I came here, I was with a big firm in Seattle, and I was part of a national counsel team that managed 15,000 asbestos lawsuits paperlessly. Our firm managed about 50 or 60,000. For major companies that were sued for asbestos. So a little bit of background with this particular area. When I arrived at Federal Municipal Court, some of you have been on the council remember this from the State of the Court address back in 2011. Here's our files, the same way that we've kept files since the late 1800s, and that's the way we keep files now in our court. And there's just thousands and thousands of cases there. And back in the day, back when I presented, this is one average day of paper citations that came in. Now, each of these citations are issued by a police officer. Could be criminal, could be infractions. They're entered over in the police department, then they're sent over to us in their computer system. Then they were sent over to us to be entered separately into our computer system. And then, of course, the prosecutor and the public defender, in case of criminal cases, would have to enter it into their system. And that's the way we were. And this is one average week of citations that had to be processed. But thanks to Thomas and you guys back in the day, there was money approved to do the first phase of this, which is to integrate to do e-tickets, to get rid of those paper tickets. And what ends up happening is the tickets inputted directly into the court system's records in JIS through this. And you can see that kind of complicated thing over there. But here, it was the first step in reducing redundancy and reducing the use of paper. I told Thomas I wasn't going to use this analogy, but I'm going to use it anyway. But this is like building a house, but building just the front porch and the doorway. It kind of gets it into the system. But this is an average day of cases that have to be pulled and put back, and orders and documents go in. And you triple this because you have the prosecutor, the public defender pulling associated files. And so the push is to try to get us paperless and automated. And if you can look at it as a system, and I'm just very grateful for Thomas being here. He's really got us here with his efforts and with his ideas, and he'll talk about the funding and everything else and what he did to kind of get this to work. And thank you to approving the funding for the in the biennium, in the just budget adjustment last year. But it's really a system. If you look at the prosecutor and the police and the public defender and the public itself, it's kind of how we interact with the courts. It's a system. Everybody has a stake in the outcome. And what we're trying to do with this system, with this new dawn system, and it's not a new day, it's a new dawn, Councilmember Moore. So you said new day early. No, I'm just kidding. It's new dawn. But really the idea is to have shared data, have a central repository of data that then people can access to do whatever function they need to do in their day-to-day activities. And it avoids duplication while respecting the unique functions. In other words, as a judge, I won't be able to see what the prosecutor has access to. They can maintain their own integrity, yet that data that came in when that police officer issued that e-ticket, that data is sucked into this main database. And the prosecutor can suck that data into a template. And the shared data can be sucked up into a template through business rules, create a document. So the initial complaint filed by the prosecutor can be prepared with the push of a button. And when it comes to the court, it can be that document sent to us in a way that can be easily folded into the system. And then an example would be in Councilmember or Mayor Farrell would understand this. When a prosecutor files a complaint and they make an offer to the defendant for a plea bargain, if they put that in the database, if the defendant accepts that same data without having to be typed in again can be sucked into the statement of defendant on plea of guilty. And if the court accepts that recommendation, that data, again, without having to ever be typed in again, can be sucked into the judgment and sentence. And that's the idea, is to really automate what we do.
And each one of those would be documents that would then be generated, signed.
Right, and then stored electronically rather than printed out. And I'll tell you what happens with SCORE right now, just so you know, and Thomas will talk. Yeah, I said I wouldn't talk about this in detail either, did I? But anyway,
do the whole presentation.
That's it. But what happens at SCORE is our clerk has to print an order in the video suite at SCORE. They sign it, scan it in,
email it back to us. The clerk then prints it at a printer by the prosecutor, who then signs it and brings it to me, or Judge Robertson. We sign it, and the clerk then has to fax it back to SCORE. So it's kind of the planes, trains, and automobiles of different conveyances for, and this system would allow us to prepare all the documents, sign them electronically, print them at SCORE, and that's it, print them for the defendant.
SCORE is our jail facility in
SCORE,
SeaTac.
Right.
And the defendants are appearing electronically.
And this is my last slide,
Yes, sir.
and this is what the file cabinet would look like with our weekly pullings if we do this particular system. So I'm going to turn it over to Thomas. Thank you.
Thanks, Judge. So as the judge had alluded to, our current system definitely has some limitations and inequities here. It's a current system that's developed in-house. It was developed by a guy that's no longer here and now maintained by a new staff person. And the limitation with that is any change that we have to make has to be programmatically in computer code modified. So you may recall the most recent legislation for recreational use of marijuana and all the additional legal statutes and RCWs associated with that. Well, we had to programmatically go in there and modify the judgment and sentence form and add all that stuff in there. And so it becomes, number one, a lot more time consuming for staff and a lot slower to turn that stuff around for the court to use. So it's hugely kind of impactful on workflow to have this type of a system. It definitely, as the judge just alluded to, does not address electronic workflow with our SCORE jail. There's a lot of faxing, a lot of scanning, a lot of time and paper wasted in that process. It does not incorporate the prosecution or public defense in it. It's strictly for the court. Requires manual tracking of caseloads, which is a manual process. It's not automated. And it requires substantial duplicate data entry instead of date entry, like the slide alludes to. So the duplicate date of entry is what the judge also said, where the police are entering the stuff into the police system and then shipping the stuff over and entering it into the court system. And so it is definitely not paperless. With the new Dawn Justor system, it is an electronic database developed for case and document management. That's what it's designed to do. It's for a paperless system. As the judge also talked about with the system type approach, this supports it, which means multiple people can use it. The prosecution can use it, the public defense can use it, the court can use it, and even probation could use this system altogether, and all keeping the data integrity intact. It's streamlined for document automation and templates, so therefore it's easy to modify judgment and sentence forms and the like. The business rules are adaptable to our workflow, and so if something changes in our workflow, we can easily change it, and it'll modify the way the system behaves. It electronically tracks the caseloads and provides statistics for that, which is why the Office of Public Defense gave us a $23,000 grant for that. It'll automate the process with SCORE video hearings, and then increasing the use of electronic signatures, which will help that process immensely. And it will also interface to the police system so that once the police write the tickets, it electronically feeds the system. And it has a public website which will allow the public to get in and track their cases and helps with scheduling as well, and much more. So the budget, as approved in the 2013 mid-biennium adjustment, was based upon an estimate. It's $205,412. Grant funding of that was about $53,000 divided into two different grants. The city funding, we were able to allocate $145,000 from Comcast, and they didn't just give us the money. It's a grant is part of our franchise agreement with Comcast. It's for unrestricted technology, and so we could use it for anything that we really want to technologically related, and this is that. And then $7,412 was allocated to bridge that gap. In addition, $14,629 was allocated or budgeted for annual maintenance. The one-time cost after going out to bid for this system came in a little bit more, but that's only with a contingency. Grand total of $220,000, but that's including a $26,000 contingency, which is about 15%. There's no indication that we will use that at this point. However, it's always good on a project of this, this particular magnitude to include that in case something does come up. So after tax and everything, we're at 220, 280, 06. With the budget, there's a $14,000 piece, which I've identified a line for one-time funds from IT to take care of that. Annual maintenance actuals after we get the RFP back is roughly $17,805, a little bit more than the budget by about $3,176, and so I will also take that in the ongoing line item from IT as well. Timeline, because this is a large project, multiple functions, the court, the prosecution, public defense, even probation and police are all affected. We're going to begin this month upon your approval and go live in April of 2015 is the current schedule. So that concludes the presentation. Are there any questions?
Councilmember Selsky.
Thank you, Mayor Farrell. So Thomas and Judge Larson, thank you for the presentation. I had a question written down here, and my question was, is there a quantifiable cost savings? But having heard the judge and what he said, I don't think I'll ask that question. There's no need to, because I can just see this as an exponentially favorable cost-benefit ratio that is going to save immense amount of time and problems. But the one question I do have, though, is the hardware that we have in place right now effective enough to handle the new software and the new system? Or are we going to have to add new servers, monitors, hardware, accessories, and whatnot?
That's a very good question. Yes, there will be a hardware component of it. As, not to get too technical, but as the city kind of migrates and technology migrates, with our replacement reserves budget, we've allocated money, and instead of replacing server for server, we have been virtualizing servers for the past going on probably 5-6 years. And so what that allows us to do is buy one big server and add smaller, virtual ones on top of that hardware. And so we've done that, and we're kind of at our capacity right now, but built into replacement reserves for this year and the next year, we have the ability to enhance that. And so we'll be able to accommodate that, to answer your question for the hardware. Monitors is a very good question. The judge, the court administrator, Sue White, court supervisor, Tiziana Morgan, and myself and Jason went over to Spokane, and we observed this whole process. They actually use New Dawn in all of their facets. They use it in municipal court, probation, prosecution, and public defense. And we saw each one of those. They were very nice to host us over there and to answer any questions we had. One of the things that definitely did come out of that was dual monitors. And the court will need those. And our computers can handle that, and we do have some dual monitors for that, which will be at no cost, no additional cost to the city.
Okay, good, thank you. And then just one additional question. Can you speak to the security of this, integrating these systems together as well?
Are you in regards to the prosecution and public defense and
right,
court?
the graphic that the judge had with the satellites
sure.
around the court and the system.
This
there
one?
you go. Yes. Yeah,
this one.
That one.
So, with this particular database, in computer terms, there's security and permissions. And so what will happen is there will be a single database, and yes, the database will hold the data, all of the data. But that will be protected by a set of permissions. And so this is a user-based system. So when the judge logs in, he has access to only certain areas of that database. When the Stephanie Arthur, the chief prosecutor, logs in, she only has access to see her stuff. And so it's configurable for that.
Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. My question is very simple. What happens if the system breaks down one day? How would the court run? What would happen?
It's a very good question.
Thank you.
The judge can probably talk to
the way that would work is we have, for every one of our orders, we have paper orders, and we use paper orders and at a later time scan them in and integrate them into the system is what we do. And so that's the answer. Is everything that we'd have would be redundant in a paper form.
But if our computers go out?
So on the technical,
because the paper, what ends up, keep in mind when I first got here, the way court orders were prepared was the multiple carbons, so people would write the orders, and then they'd tear off the pink one for the defendant, the yellow one for whatever. what we do is, as long as the copiers were working, the orders would have to be handwritten if we had a breakdown. And then later they'd be scanned into the system. And Thomas can explain, the other thing about this is because it's hosted on our server, we're not going outside the city to access the data, we're staying in. And that's going to help a lot in terms of outages with internet and everything else. So
Technically speaking, because this will be on a virtual server, we do back up our data, so we'll have nightly backups of the database. The virtual servers allow, if an actual piece of hardware breaks, we can migrate that over to a new server. In addition, if there's connectivity issues, we're actually in the midst of a project right now to upgrade the building's network here in this building. In addition, what you guys just approved tonight, as far as the Zayo conduit lease agreement, as part of them leasing that conduit, we're going to have dedicated fiber to SCORE. So that process will have a backup. Not only will we have dedicated fiber, but if that fiber should ever get cut, as the case of Verizon getting a cut yesterday, that will have a backup over another internet line, and SCORE has 3 different providers. We'll have 3 different providers at that: our dedicated fiber, our King County iNet, and then another no-wire provider as well. So there are systems in place that we try to keep as much redundancy and backup as we possibly can.
This appears to be obviously completely data-driven, so who's inputting the data, and do we need more FTEs to accomplish that?
The goal of this system, and the judge can definitely speak on this, is to reduce, to at least stay at the same FTE, without taking the words out of his mouth, or potentially reduce. And the reason for that is because it's going to interface with the police. So the first graphic the judge kind of showed, which was this, phase 1 being sector, that's where e-ticketing or electronic tickets, where the police go out, they write the infraction, they scan your license, and you put it in the computer system automatically, or with that type of process. That then gets approved, gets sent to the state, and then it comes back into, as you can see on the right-hand side, WashDOT gets a copy of it for collisions, or for collision, DOL gets it, AOC gets it, as well as the law enforcement agencies. And we actually have that. It says coming soon here, but we already have that interface to our Spillman police record system. Part of this project will involve an interface. So basically it will go from the officer through this system into the police's system and then into this particular case management system. So it's going to be fed that way. So hopefully it will reduce the amount of work for entering, hence the duplicated data entry.
Okay. All right. Council, any other questions?
Can I add something that just as to even add to what Councilmember Selski's concern is? Right now, we issue warrants for people that don't show up for court. The public interface of this will have a feature that if we can get it to people to input their data, we'll be able to either by text or email or whatever remind them of their court dates, which in other courts that have done that have seen an increase in attendance, reduction in warrants, and every time an officer goes out, serves a warrant, there's a intangible cost of officer safety as well as the cost to the city, both to the court and to the police and everybody else and then when they get booked in jail, that cost. So that is going to have some indirect savings too, just as a small feature that has going to hopefully have big impacts if it functions the way we'd like it to.
All right. Councilmember Moore.
Yeah, I just had comments, no questions to the judge, and just wanted to say thank you for everything you've done with the court systems here in Federal Way. I know that when I did my initial tour in the very beginning of my term, I was just blown away and impressed with all the changes that has happened since you've come on board. And the one that I'm really impressed with is that you guys have been extremely proactive in cutting redundancies, cutting waste, and making sure you guys build a lean system in your processes in the court system. And I just wanted to say thank you for doing that, and thank you for being proactive in that whole department.
Well, again, if it wasn't for an IT department we have, we'd be able to do it as well as we do too.
And Councilmember Silsky, you talked about kind of just overall seeing the cost reduction. I would invite you to watch one of the SCORE GL proceedings one day, and you'll see that process alone, and you'll see how much time is put and waste with paper, and that will get substantially, if not all eliminated, but it will be substantially reduced. So.
All right. Council? Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you. The redundancies and maybe keeping the FTEs the same or reducing them or whatever, and the scenarios of having it input one time to go through the whole thing, that's essentially economic profit. And I'm wondering if you have been able to quantify that in any way.
I don't know about quantifying it. Right now, we're running one staff member short on, when I started with the court in 2008, we had 10 clerks, and we didn't have photo enforcement. Now we have 9 clerks with 8,000 photo enforcement hearings a year, with really no extra money to handle that. What this would do is it hold that at bay. This is going to make the attorneys and the judges more efficient. The clerks will continue to do, and it's going to make them a little more efficient because they won't be doing the paper, but there's still volumes of stuff that isn't getting done now that could be done.
Yeah.
So from a standpoint of quantitative budget savings, I don't anticipate we're going to see the need or some savings where we'll be able to cut staff. We're already pretty lean. But as far as being able to make us even better when it comes to, because we have to run JIS too, and that's a DOS system. And anybody even know what DOS is? The state-run system is DOS-based. The clerks will still have to be entering into that DOS-based system all the dockets, and we're not doing the financials, so the financials have to be entered. So there's still going to be. It makes the attorneys more efficient, the system more efficient, but yet the clerks can be clerks instead of secretaries. Because right now they're secretaries to us lawyers and judges.
Thank you.
All right, council, any more questions? All right. Councilmember Duclos.
I move approval of the proposed goods and service agreement with the New Dawn Technologies Incorporated with a total compensation not to exceed $238,085.86 and authorize the mayor to sign said agreement.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the measure passes. I need a 3-minute recess. Thank you very much. Just be in recess for just 3 minutes. bargaining agreement with the Police Support Service Association.
I'm over here. Just so you know.
Okay. Actually, I did not have my microphone on. We are back in order. This is item E under the collective bargaining agreement with Police Support Services. Amy Jo Piersar, our city attorney.
The collective bargaining agreement with the Police Support Services Association expired in December 31st of 2012. We've been negotiating since late 2012, and earlier this month we had actually it was last month, we had a mediation session, and in the shortest mediation session that this particular mediator had ever had, we reached an agreement, and that is the draft that is before you.
You made them an offer they couldn't refuse. All right. Any questions, council? All right. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. I move approval of the proposed collective bargaining agreement with the Federal Way Police Support Services Association and authorize the mayor to execute the necessary documents.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the measure passes. We have a contract. All right, ordinances, first reading and enactment. Council Bill 655, Amendment to Federal Way Revised Code Title 19 for Group Homes Type 3. Presentation by Senior Planner Janet Schull. Ms. Schull?
I have a brief PowerPoint this morning introducing the topic of the proposed amendment to Title 19, also known as the zoning code, to deal with the topic of group homes type 3. And group homes type 3 are essentially group homes for adults who have been recently or are currently under the jurisdiction of the criminal justice system, and also does include, in this case, registered sex offenders. So why is this topic before the council this evening? As a bit of background, in Federal Way in 2013, we did have multiple sex offenders who were found to be residing in one single-family home in Federal Way. So with some effort from the police department staff and our code enforcement staff, those individuals were removed from that home, but we realized that we had an issue where we essentially had a de facto group home of a type 3 nature, which isn't something we wanted in our single-family, obviously in our single-family neighborhoods. So in 2013, the council enacted a moratorium on the siting of group homes type 3 and sex offender housing in particular, and directed staff to begin working on recommended regulations. So at that time, the City Council also adopted Ordinance 13-746 that established a definition of a significant impact business and required licensing and regulation of significant impact businesses as group homes type 3. And significant impact businesses are essentially a business situation where an individual is looking to rent a residence to more than one registered sex offender or other adult who's under the jurisdiction of the criminal justice system. So this is no longer allowed to take place in a single family residence. You would be classified as a group home type 3. That leads you to the zoning code, and when you get to the current City of Federal Way zoning code, look up the definition of group home type 3. There is a definition, but there's no further direction in the code as to where a group home type 3 shall be located, and that's why this matters before the council tonight. So, as I just stated, the zoning code currently does have a definition of a group home type 3. The zoning code does not currently specify where these types of facilities could be located within the city limits. The city must allow for the siting of group homes type 3. We must provide reasonable accommodation within our city limits for this type of facility. The code amendment under consideration this evening would establish where and under what conditions group homes type 3 may be located within our city limits. So the code amendment objectives are to identify the appropriate zoning districts to site group homes type 3, to establish appropriate separation standards between group homes type 3 and sensitive land uses. Sensitive land uses are churches, schools, parks, and daycare facilities. So those are typically recognized as sensitive land uses, and we want to make sure that group homes type 3 are not located near these types of land uses. And then we also, in our Title 19 or zoning code, want to provide a clear cross-reference to group homes type 3 regulations and the licensing requirements that are in Title 12 that refer to significant impact businesses. So we want to provide that cross-referencing so that both our business license staff and our zoning and land use staff all are working under the same assumptions and same regulations for siting of these facilities. So now I'm going to just briefly go over the a summary of what is in the proposed ordinance that's before you this evening. So the recommendation in the ordinance is that the appropriate zoning districts for group homes type 3 in Federal Way would be the BC or community business zone and the CE, or which is the commercial enterprise zone. And in all cases where group homes type 3 would be considered for siting, they would be subject to our process 4 land use approval process, which requires a public hearing before the hearing examiner and public notification so that there'd be adequate opportunity for citizen comment in these cases. So that's just wanted to make that clear. We also do have provisions currently in our zoning code for what's referred to as group homes type 2. These are typically facilities for juveniles who would be under the jurisdiction of the criminal justice system. They are also subject to land use process for public hearing. They would be allowed potentially in additional zoning districts, and this is in our current zoning code, this is what's allowed. I would like to point out in table 2 that's showing here on the slide that in this ordinance we're recommending that group homes type 2 no longer be allowed in the multifamily residential zone. They're currently allowed in certain cases there, but staff felt that this was treating multifamily zoning districts different than single family residential, and that's why that recommendation is part of this ordinance. And this is just a map here that shows in red the few locations where group homes could potentially be located if you apply the recommended zoning districts, again, the CE and the BC zone. So the red here is showing down here in the south, this land is all zoned commercial enterprise, and then we have these very small pieces here. This is just south of 324th, zoned community business, and some very tiny areas here up along Pacific Highway that are zoned community business, or business commercial, sorry. So these would be the only areas in the community where you could potentially site a group homes type 3, looking at the recommended zoning districts and also separation requirements that we're recommending, separating these uses from parks, schools, churches. So when you overlay that, these are the resulting possible areas, and again, still would be subject to public hearing process as well before you could cite. We also wanted to provide a clarification in the code that a group home type 2, which again are facilities for juveniles, shall be treated as a group home type 3 if those juveniles have been convicted of offenses listed under the group homes type 3. So for example, if they were had been convicted of a violent crime or a crime with a sexual motivation, then facilities for juveniles, and again this is group homes, would need to be treated like a type 3 in terms of citing provisions. So I want to talk a little bit about the proposed separation standards. When I showed the map and showed the very limited areas where group homes type 3 could potentially be located, one of those reasons is that the proposed ordinance would recommend the same 1,000-foot separation standard for group homes type 3 as currently exists in our zoning code for type 2. So what I mean by that is that any group home in Federal Way at type 2 or type 3 would have to be at least 1,000 feet from a school, a church, a park, or a daycare center. So even though it would be allowed in certain zoning districts, it's not allowed there if it's within 1,000 feet of those sensitive uses, and that's why the resulting area is so limited. In addition, the ordinance recommends that we increase the noticing standard for group homes type 3. Our typical noticing requirements for a matter going to public hearing with our hearing examiner is a 300-foot radius. For group homes type 3, we're recommending 1,000 feet to provide greater notification in this case. And then we also, our staff is recommending a proposed change to the group homes type 3 definition that just clarifies, provides some clarification as to what a group home type 3 is, and also again cross-references Title 12 regarding significant impact businesses. So we're clear that licensing is required for these under the special licensing is required under the business license section of our municipal code. So this matter was taken through the public process, beginning with our Planning Commission. There was a study session with the Planning Commission in May, followed by a public hearing on July 2nd. And at that public hearing, the Planning Commission voted to recommend to the City Council that the City Council adopt the proposed code amendments as were depicted in Exhibits A through E of the staff report to the Planning Commission provided that evening at the hearing. And then following that meeting with our Planning Commission, the City Council Land Use and Transportation Committee considered the matter at their August 4th meeting. And at that meeting, the LUTC voted to forward the proposed ordinance to first reading and enactment by the City Council this evening. So I just wanted to note here that the reason we're bringing this matter before the Council this evening with a recommendation for reading and enactment, this is specified tonight due to the expiration of the moratorium that the Council put in place that expires on September 3rd of this year. And there's only one remaining Council meeting between now and that date. So in order to, the recommended action this evening for the Council is first, staff is requesting that Council suspend Rule 2.28 to allow first reading and enactment in the same meeting. So this ordinance will be effective prior to the expiration of the current moratorium. And then there is the proposed Council motion on your agenda bill is simply I move approval of the proposed ordinance. So I just wanted to have that information available, assuming that you may want to entertain going forward with that motion. But at this point, that concludes my remarks, and I'm open for any comments or questions.
All right, thank you, Janet. Council, are there any questions? All right, is there?
I have a question.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Cephedos.
Yeah, thank you. I just have one question. When we're talking about churches, does that include all places of worship?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Council. All right, is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Yes, I move to suspend City Council Rule 2.28 to allow first reading and enactment of the ordinance in one meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to suspend Council Rule 2.8 for this purpose. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now, would the Deputy City Clerk please read the ordinance title?
An ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to group homes Type 2 and Type 3, amending Federal Way Revised Code 19.05 to 070, 19.105 to .050, 19.205.060, and 19.220.090, and adding new sections to Federal Way Revised Code 19.240.
All right. Councilmember Selsky.
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The measure passes. Thank you, Janet. All right. Now, moving on to item B, first reading for CB 654, Zayo Group LLC Franchise Agreement Amendment, Presentation, Thomas, our IT manager.
All right. Good evening again, Mayor Farrell, council members. Before you is the Zayo Group Amendment. It's very straightforward. It's amending the existing ordinance 13-738. Two things that it's doing, conflicting language, and so it's correcting one sentence, one paragraph said that it could, the other paragraph said it couldn't allow them to lease to third-party providers. And so this is taking that conflicting language out and making it so that they can lease their facilities to third-party providers. Granted, they have a franchise, the third-party provider has a franchise with the City of Federal Way. And then additionally, extending the term of the franchise from March 25th, 2023 to August 31st, 2024 to co-terminate with the lease space agreement approved under consent agenda tonight.
Council, any questions? Would the Deputy City Clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 654, Zayo Group LLC Franchise Amendment. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Federal Way, Washington, amending the non-exclusive franchise granted to Zayo Group LLC to occupy rights of way of the City of Federal Way, Washington, within the specified franchise area for the purpose of installing fiber optic network within and throughout the City of Federal Way.
All right. Councilmember Duclos.
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the September 2nd, 2014 City Council meeting for enactment.
Second.
It's It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the measure passes. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. Good work tonight. Thank you. All right, now, second reading, item C. Deputy City Clerk, will you please read the ordinance title?
An ordinance of the City of Federal, Washington relating to the adoption of the 2014 National Electrical Code and related matters, amending Title 13, Buildings, amending Federal Revised Code 13.11.110, enforcement amending Federal Revised Code 13.38.20, electrical codes adopted, and amending Federal Revised Codes 13.38.40 amendments.
Councilmember Selsky.
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The measure passes. Councilmember Asefa Dawson will start us off in council position number 1 with council reports.
Okay, just wanted to say thank you to the groups that hosted National Night Out, and especially for me personally, I got to go to Westway Country Village and Marine Hills and had a wonderful time. Just want to say thank you. And with Council Member Moore and Honda, we've been talking about the Youth Commission, and I'm really excited about this opportunity, which also tomorrow I am going to be on the government panel for advancing leadership youth. And so it's just an exciting time for our youth, and I'm excited to be part of this process. I want to say thank you to Marwan and your staff. My son likes to run around, and he was talking about not having recycling bins out around Sacagawea, and today he reported to me that he did see them. So thank you very much for making that happen. And then the public health, it really, it's still dear to my heart. I'm really concerned about it. And so I'm thankful to Tim for talking about the new market tax credit that we could potentially use. So there's hope here, and if there's any kind of advocacy or any type of action that we're going to take, I really am interested in this, in the prospect. So I'd like to say that to the mayor. And then the covering of the utility boxes, thank you. It came sooner and quicker than I expected, and it's really exciting to see it out there. And so thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you very much. I too was really happy to participate in National Night Out. I went to several, well, I don't want to over-exaggerate, I went to 2 neighborhoods, and I only went to 2 because I was so engaged and had the opportunity to talk with many of our residents, and they're very proud of their communities, their neighborhoods, and they were proud of the turnout that they had. So I thought that was really rewarding to me personally, and obviously to them. Later this week, actually starting tomorrow, I'll be going to Leavenworth for an AWC Municipal Budget and Finance Workshop. I'm looking forward to that. Over the course of the next week or so, the community will be seeing these little booklets out in different areas in the community, maybe coffee shops or libraries, or I know Marlene's has agreed to have one. And these are just blank notebooks that invite you to write down your perceptions, insights, experiences of Federal Way, and whether positive or negative, put them in there. We want to keep it PG, but if you could just share with us, and that will help inform us as we go through this rebranding process. So there's that. Also, I've been meeting with several people and having a lot of conversations with people about the intellectual innovation zone. I've had some colleges and universities that have expressed interest, and even though it's a long-range plan, the initial kind of just the immediate out the door part of this is really going well, and so I'm excited about it. And the last thing I want to say is I too am concerned about the public health clinic closure. I'm very proud of Federal Way for stepping forward and for the community members who were here tonight speaking out. I wonder if we've reached out to St. Francis or if they have a voice in this. I think it would be valuable to hear from them as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. Well, once again, in my mailbox was this catalog, and this is put out by the Parks Department twice a year. It has all sorts of activities and information for our seniors, our youth, our young ones, anyone in the community. It's really cool. These are available downstairs. They're available at the community center. And pick one up. They're good until the end of the year. They even have Christmas activities in them. So that's pretty neat. I too enjoy National Night Out. What I heard from citizens, I went to 5 different events. I started early and I ended late because I found one that was ending at 9 o'clock close to where I was, so I popped over there. I had citizens ask why we don't have a cemetery in our city limits, and I had citizens ask for sidewalks and for crosswalks on streets, and so I've talked with staff about some of those issues and don't have all the answers yet, but I'm working on it. I am serious when I would ask for comments from our public and our citizens about what they want to see in Town Square Park, and please let us know because we'll be discussing this at our next council meeting, so we really do want to know what the public wants there and what they would like us to see with that property. And this weekend is an event called the Desna Cup. It's at Sahali Middle School. It's, I think, in their 6th or 7th year. And it's a soccer event. It's a cultural event. This year they've added a bike ride. It's amazing. If you have any time available this weekend, please, it's free. You can buy things there, you can buy lunch there and that kind of thing, but it's really, truly amazing. People come from Oregon, they come from California, they have come from Canada, they come from Washington. Brings a lot of people here to Federal Way, and it really is an amazing event. So if you have time, I would encourage you to go. And that's all.
All right. Councilmember Selski.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, can we have a motion to suspend the rules to extend past 10 p.m., please?
Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to suspend the rules to go past 10 p.m. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The measure passes. Councilmember Selski.
Thanks, Mayor Farrell. Yeah, I also wanted to talk about National Night Out and the public health facility, but that's been adequately covered, I think, already, at least up to this point. A couple things I do want to say, though. First of all, I want to say congratulations to Ade and the finance staff for, and really all staffs that participated in doing so well in the recent finance and performance audit. So congratulations to you. A lot of work was put into that. And I think Federal Way, at least what we heard the auditors say, the Federal Way continues to lead all other cities in that particular area. It's refreshing to see and nice to know that we're in such good hands there. Secondly, a couple personal things. A couple weeks ago, I was involved in the Federal Way High School class of 1974 40-year class reunion. I say that tongue-in-cheek, 40-year class reunion. But, and I'm proud to say that all the events, the formal events that we had as a class were held right here in Federal Way. First of all, on Friday night, we supported one of our local classmates who owns an establishment right here in Federal Way. And I can tell you we supported the economy of the city that night. There were a lot of us there, and it was nice to do that. And then on Saturday, my classmate Bruce Honda, who's in the back here, coordinated a visit to the Federal Way High School for our class so we could walk the halls of this ancient facility before it gets demolished. Much like we saw the PAC go down, the high school is going to go down in this next year and be rebuilt. So we got a chance to tour the old facility and walk the halls, which was really nice. So thank you, Bruce, for coordinating that and all the other events that you coordinated that weekend. But what I really wanted to say is on Saturday night, we had our formal event, which we used the community center to have that event. And I've heard many comments, and I'm sure Bruce has too, that that was the best reunion facility we've ever had as a class. It was functional, it was simple, it was well done. And so I want to really say thank you to Susan Freeberg and the community center staff for all they did in making us feel comfortable, and it was a really fun time. And I'd really like to encourage anybody else thinking about having a class reunion or a wedding or any other kind of event where you have up to a couple hundred people in the community center. It is easy and well done. So again, thanks. And a couple weeks ago, I learned something which was really interesting. I found out that the mayor of Issaquah, his name is Fred Butler, I have a past with him. Back in 1983, I actually served with him in the 130th Engineer Brigade in Hanau, Germany. He was my deputy brigade commander. And so that was fascinating to learn that, and as it turns out, I'm going to be having lunch with him on Friday, so I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm going to bring the positive aspects of Federal Way to him and tell him all the great things we're doing. So. And then lastly, the next Land Use and Transportation Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, September 8th at 5:30 right here in Council Chambers. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. ALY, Advanced Leadership Youth, is going to be happening tomorrow, where they'll be meeting at City Hall, and I'm looking forward to meeting with the group and having a delightful conversation with the bright individuals. Also, I had the opportunity to attend National Night Out. It was a great gathering. I wanted to thank Councilmember Lydia Safadasan for her company, and of course meeting up with other council members at various sites. Last week I had the privilege of working with Mayor Farrell and meeting with a group called Trillium Employment Services. They work with hiring people with development disabilities and work with either businesses or entities that want to hire people with development disabilities. And so that was fun, and we had a great engaging conversation. We learned a lot. And so that's a journey I'm continuing and looking forward to. Just wanted to take the time to thank the mayor and, of course, the Trillium Employment individuals. Also, I wanted to say thank you to Councilmember Susan Honda and Councilmember Safadasan for their leadership and working together with our Youth Commission. I'm very, very excited about the future prospects of building a strong Youth Commission where the council can count on the advice of the next generation. And so that's something I'm really looking forward to. And more importantly, I wanted to kind of comment about the public health. It's saddening to me, and as I continue to learn what it's like to be an elected official, you begin to wonder the fact that 13,000 lives are being affected, and that weighs heavy on my heart. And when you begin to realize and look at the big picture with the fact that transportation is being cut and public health being cut, that's scary. It really is. And it makes you wonder, where's the future and what are we going to do? And as I, again, as I start to do more thinking and contemplating, I realize that South King County and Federal Way, they're constantly being cut. They're constantly being, they're constantly being cut, and I'm tired of that. And so I know that the future does look bright for Federal Way. I know we do have a strong team, and I know that there are a lot of opportunities. I know that Senator Ide in the past has always stated that where there's opportunities, there lies, where there are challenges, there lies opportunities. And this is a huge opportunity for Federal Way to step up and be a leader regionally and working with partnerships with other communities and other groups to make sure that we provide this incredibly important services to our families here in Federal Way. So I just wanted to mention those comments and just wanted to thank my colleagues and the mayor for all their hard work and the efforts that we're about to put forth to making sure that we're advocating for families here in Federal Way. With that, that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. He actually helped set up this and facilitated this discussion with Trillium. At the next City Council meeting on September 2nd, we will have representatives from Trillium present to present here, and we're going to be discussing the presentation of what we anticipate sometime in October of a possible ordinance about making sure that we have an inclusion work program here at the city, what that entail in regard to dedicated FTEs, and we're working on that number. But we will have a presentation from Trillium at our next city council meeting. So, Councilmember Duclos.
Thank you. I also attended a couple of the block parties on our Night Out Against Crime. First one was with Councilmember Moore and Asafa Dawson, and it was very, very interesting. And then I went back to my own neighborhood and talked to some of my neighbors. I want to give a quick update from Sound Cities regarding the Association of Washington Cities Legislative Committee developing their proposed priorities, and I'm just going to read off their highest priorities, and I think we might want to give some feedback into these. We might want to sign on to some of them. The first one is restoring funding to the Public Works Trust Fund. The second is maintaining existing state shared revenue, really important. This one I really like too, securing a portion of the marijuana excise tax revenue. Cities were really, really, I think, jilted on this whole legislation. We're the ones that are going to be dealing with some of the after effects and some of the crime, and we get very little out of it. So I think that's a real important one for us to put on our agenda. Maintaining existing funding sources for infrastructure grants and loans, and restoring the liquor revenue sharing also. So I thought those were some that we might want to look at as a city for our own legislative agenda. I also want to thank the mayor and the council for their stance on the potential closure of the King County Health Department. I think that's really an unfortunate thing. It seems like the southern part of this county always takes it in the shorts, as they say, and we have the greatest need here, and it just doesn't seem right. It seems like maybe they think that our people aren't worthy enough or something. I don't understand it, but what I do want to encourage all citizens to do here is to contact your county council members, your county council representatives, and let them know this isn't right, that they can't be doing this to us all the time, and that they have an obligation to protect and to help their constituents down here in our county. And I know the mayor has sent an extremely strong letter in opposition to these cuts, and I think that the council is doing the same, sending a strong message, and I hope we will continue to do that. And finally, I am so happy to welcome our new economic development director, and I look forward to working with him in terms of what we're going to be doing with our downtown, and I'm just really happy to see what's going on downtown right now with the park. We're finally seeing some movement after years where we couldn't because we didn't have the money and because of the downturn. And I really am very, very glad to see our city starting to move forward. As the mayor often says, it's a new day federal way. So that's the end of my report.
As Karen Carpenter used to sing, we've only just begun.
She was one of my favorites.
Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Councilmember Honda for mentioning the Desna Cup, and that's an example of one of the celebrations and cultural events that occurs in Federal Way that does receive some funding from the Tourism Enhancement Grant Program. There are a number of other kinds of events that also receive funding. A couple of good examples are the tournaments at Celebration Park, and also the swimming and diving and synchronized swimming, sometimes events at the Aquatic Center that we all appreciate so much. I also attended several National Night Out locations, and I was very pleased with the turnout and the involvement of people. They seemed very pleased to be able to share that evening with their neighbors, and they were certainly impressive in the fact that they had taken over cul-de-sacs with their tables and chairs and their food and enthusiasm. So thanks to all who hosted and helped with those. I also want to thank all the people who testified in favor of their concern, expressed their concern about the public health clinic funding, and would underline the request by Councilmember Duclos to please folks who share that concern, to send messages to our county council folks and staff. I had an opportunity to sit in on a meeting at the chamber earlier this week that was focused on small businesses in Federal Way with Congressman Adam Smith, and he also did ask me to give a brief report on the Performing Arts and Conference Center plan for our downtown. We're certainly excited about that, and the beginning preparation physically for that and removal of the former building that was there. And I too have enjoyed our downtown park, our town square park already so much. Going to that movie was a thrill to have that turnout, and serving popcorn to folks was fun. And we've already seen examples of the enthusiasm people have for that facility. Thank you.
All right. And with that, we are done. Good night, everyone.